It is a brand new week, and Tuesdays are the best day of the week. Tuesday nights are the best night of the week. The Wise Guys are back. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler from Provo, Utah. And we've had loaded shows before. This one is this may take the cake.
This is really good.
We've got all kinds of things to talk about.
We're not even we have to wait till more people get on to tell them who's going to be on the show tonight.
Yeah, we'll just stall out here for just a second.
But it's going to be great. But we will say for those of you that are on, whether you're joining us via YouTube or on Twitch or what else, they could just do it directly through ysguys.com.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever your method, we'd really love you guys to subscribe to our YouTube. So go on to YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat, and then hit subscribe. It's free, and click on the little bell, and you'll get notifications whenever we're posting something that's new or when we're going live on anything. The more subscribers we get, the longer we can do the show. So we're trying to get those YouTube numbers up. Like, we don't even care which way you come in and listen with us, or and then of course you can get the podcast after the fact and listen to interviews again, whatever you want to do. But we need your help with this. Subscribing to YouTube, subscribe to Twitch, subscribe to both of them, and then go ahead and listen in however you want.
And let us be perfectly clear. In the event there's any confusion, we hate losing.
Right.
We there's not one redeeming quality that has come from these 4 straight defeats. And so we're going to talk tonight about a bunch of things, and we have some cool guests on, and we'll ask you some questions too. But in our being that it's Tuesday, we're a few days removed. Don't take for a second that we're actually okay with how things are going.
No, we don't like the way they're going. But we do keep things in perspective.
Yeah.
We don't live or die because BYU wins or loses.
We're not on the edge, and we may pull you back from the edge. Even
though we've been involved in it a long, long time and have family members that are involved and played and did all of those things, we recognize it's not life or death. That's for sure. So
just a few minutes ago, the first college football rankings came out. Let's talk about that before we jump into our teases and all the good things we've got coming up. It's November 1st, but all the goodies that were handed out last night for Halloween. Mm-hmm. This is kind of a second Halloween because we got a lot of good stuff to hand out. None of them are milk duds, but it's still going to be pretty good.
Well, hey, with my tooth problem, I don't think I can have milk duds.
Yeah, you're going to have to stay with for at least a day.
Until I get this thing fixed.
For at least a day. Yeah. So just a short time ago, the first college football rankings were announced, and these are the rankings now that supersede the AP Top 25. So when you see the rankings on ESPN, they're going with these ones.
This honestly, this is all that matters right now.
Yeah.
So
number 1's Tennessee. They've been playing great. They just beat Alabama, but in the AP, they're like at 3 or 4. Not in this one. They're up to number 1, and Ohio State is number 2.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Tennessee. We've talked about this a lot, and this relates back to BYU and their struggles. The teams that are up there, like when we look at these teams, they all score a bunch of points. Like the old saying, hey, defense wins championships. Not in today's college football. I mean, you have to be decent on defense, but you have to score a bunch of points. Tennessee's averaging 50.1 points a game. They just go outscore people. It's crazy how awesome they are.
And isn't it interesting to know Tennessee was supposed to come here to open next season.
Yes.
And BYU went back there and beat them 3 years ago. 2019 was Zach and the guys. Or was it 20? It was 19?
I think it was 19. Yeah.
So they go back there and they beat Tennessee. And Tennessee was on TV the other night. 110,000 screaming fans. They've got a new coach. They're playing all kinds of different football. They're really, really good. And now they're number 1 here tonight. And you know what? I'm okay that they spent $2 million to get out of the game next year. We got other fish to fry.
There's something right about college football when Tennessee and Michigan are in the top 5, to me.
Yeah.
Because those are traditional programs that haven't been great lately. I'm tired of Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia. Actually, of those 3, I can take Georgia, probably the most. And I really like Clemson's coach. Don't get me wrong. Dabo Swinney is a heck of a guy. But Tennessee, and I love Josh Heupel's story.
Yeah.
Remember, Josh Heupel has ties to Utah. Played at Snow, played at Oklahoma, and then
coached at Utah State.
He was at Oklahoma when they redid the staff, when Bobby Stoops retired. And they just said, well, the guy that's taking over, he's an offensive mind, really don't need you. He was without a job. So he comes out to Utah State for 1 year, and then I think he goes to Missouri as the O coordinator, and then he goes as the head coach at Central Florida and wins a bunch of games. And now he's the head coach at Tennessee. And he's one of the most brilliant offensive minds in football.
He's not all that interested in defense, but today's game, if you outscore the other guy, you celebrate.
I mean, I keep looking at BYU and going, man, they got to do this and this and this on defense. But you want to know what?
Score more.
They need to start scoring high 30s, low 40s every game. And if you're Tennessee, you score in the 50s.
Right.
Sometimes in the 60s. And that's how you win.
Georgia's number 3 in the new college football rankings. Georgia plays Tennessee on Saturday. We'll give our pick on that a bit later. Maybe today's rankings sway that a little bit.
Yeah.
Clemson 4, Michigan 5, Alabama's at 6. Still an opportunity for them to work up in the top 4 with games ahead. TCU is 7 out of the Big 12, and Oregon is the highest one-loss team at number 8.
Well, Bama's one loss, remember.
In addition to Alabama.
Right, because Alabama lost to who? Tennessee.
Oregon is the one-loss team out of the Pac-12.
Right, there you go.
That is high as number 8, and they're the only team that BYU's played in that top 8.
Number 8. And you know what's funny is before the season, we were all going, well, Oregon's got a new staff. Maybe this is one of the ones that BYU can get. Oregon offensively right now is a machine. Yeah. I mean, they're just scoring. The lowest point total they've had. They went to the opener at Georgia and struggled. New coach, new staff, kind of made some adjustments the next week, and they've been on a tear ever since. BYU's the lowest point total they've scored since the Georgia game.
That's a shout out for the defense.
Yeah, that tells you about how good Oregon is offensively. And you know who else is lights out on offense? TCU. Yeah. They just go outscore people.
They used to be interested in defense.
No interest whatsoever. And then the number 9 right after Oregon, so you got TCU, Oregon, is Southern Cal, USC. Yeah. And they're also 7-1. And guess who else just scores crazy amounts of points? And their one loss is to Utah. What was it, 42-41?
Something like that.
Utah goes down and gets what we thought was the game-tying score because they would kick an extra point. Whittingham decides to go for 2 and just win the thing. And they go for 2 and get it and end up winning the game by 1. And, a lot of interesting calls down the stretch on that one. But USC is a team that's just scoring a bunch of points. Then the highest-ranked 2-loss team is LSU at number 10.
And they host Alabama this week.
At 6-2. That'll be a really interesting game.
All right, so that's the rankings coming out. Now let's set the table for what we have coming up on a blockbuster show, including the Big 12's big media deal, what that means for BYU moving forward. I'll give you a hint. It means a lot. I mean, we're talking about so much more money than they've ever had coming in annually to this football program.
You and I guesstimate maybe 5 times what they've ever had when they've maximized it the most, because there's a chance that with tertiary rights and shares of NCAA basketball tournament money, which, by the way, they get a bunch of teams. Yeah. And
that's got nothing to do with this pile.
Make up to Final Fours and all that. But this could all, when it's all said and done, the share that could go to BYU when they're full shareholder would be close to $50 million.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So we'll break that down and give you some perspective on that.
Hey, the Cougars fell to East Carolina. We all know that, right?
And we're not happy about it.
The Pirates won the game on one leg. They had a peg leg. No, it wasn't a peg leg.
It was a pirate with one leg.
Peg leg. Their kicker hit that game-winning field goal. His time expired, and they win 27-24. We talked about it on AFR, which just ended here just a few minutes ago. And BYU, you could go back. There's 5 or 6 plays in that game. They just need to make any one of the 5 or 6 plays. One. And win the game. And they didn't make a single one of the plays they had to make down on offense. A couple of 4th down conversions. They just got to get one of them.
Come on.
A 3rd down conversion. They just have to catch the ball or get deeper on the route.
Seriously.
On defense, they gave up a big 3rd down when a player fell down. They also, on 4th down, way out on the 37, when I thought their coach was crazy for going for it. Yeah. Because if they don't get it, and it wasn't 4th and 1. It was 4th and long.
4th and 8.
He throws a vertical, which is about a 15% chance of completing, right? And they were going to give the ball back to BYU with enough time to complete a couple of balls and kick a field goal, right? Way out on the 37. But instead, BYU gets, of course, pass interference call when they did not need to. They were in perfect position to defend it. The ball had no chance of being completed.
And you know what? It was a good call. He reached out and grabbed him.
He definitely.
We would have loved the official to just let it go because it's into the game stuff. But he did it, and we're just like, why did you do it?
No reason.
And it cost him the game.
Yeah, no reason. And, I mean, that's the last of the 5 or 6 plays we're talking about. If they make any of them, if he just keeps running and the ball's incomplete, BYU's got a chance. The worst case scenario, they go into overtime. But 2 fourth downs, couldn't complete them. Couldn't get off the field on 3rd down in an important role. That 4th down pass interference play. A 3rd down play that they didn't make that brought up a 4th that where the receiver was there and they couldn't get it to him. Like just multiple big plays that they could not close the deal on. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Then they've also got this problem closing out games because the offense has been tanking in the second half of games.
Come on.
BYU
score some points.
BYU tied the first half 17-17. I'm like, okay, this looks like a normal game. This game's going to be in the high 30s because most teams figure it out and do a little better in the second half. BYU got outscored 10-7 in the second half. They scored on their first series.
At home.
And never scored again.
So we're turning the page, and you know what? Every time we turn the page, there's some optimism on the page. Boise State is Saturday night. We'll preview the game, all the broadcast details and all that's coming up. See if the Cougars can snap that skid.
Yeah, and I think that East Carolina and Liberty playing really, really well. This is a different kind of matchup. I feel like BYU matches up better with Boise, and we'll talk about that. So, and you can't say Boise, like with a Z.
Boise.
Or people from Boise get really mad. It's like there's an S in there, Boise.
It's the last time BYU's going to have to play on that blue thing they've got going on up there.
So
unless we go to we're not going to go to any more potato bowls.
And now, we got enough people on now that we'll tell you who's coming on. So we've got BYU's all-time winningest quarterback, Max Hall. He's going to join us live, and we'll get his take on what BYU needs to do to turn this thing around and get off the losing streak here. TJ
Bass going to join us live. He works with the BYU alumni in the Boise area. We're going to talk about all the activities and the service project around Saturday night's game up in Boise. A lot of BYU fans in Idaho, obviously, and so we're going to talk to him about that. He's a child of Jimmermania. When he was in school, Jimmer was lighting it up, and so TJ Bass going to join us right around 7.
What's Jimmer's new name? What's Jimmer's new name? I can't even remember. Somebody needs to throw that one out to us. Come on, Chaplain Brett Peterson. You know what Jimmer's new alias is when he comes to practice.
It's like Sketch or something
with a fat suit on and just starts lighting it up. Somebody knows it out there. Let us know what that is. Slick Nick? What is it?
It might have been Nick. It might have been Slick Nick.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is. So, hey, BYU basketball tips off. They only have one exhibition game this year, and that's tomorrow night. You and I will be broadcasting that game. It's against Ottawa, and no, Ottawa in this case is not in Canada. It's in Arizona.
No, it's in Arizona. We're eager. They're the Ottawa Spirit, so they're coming.
Yeah, so Dave and I and Spencer Linton will be on the call tomorrow night. That'll be live on BYU TV. So we're excited. If you guys want to get a little preview, we did the blue and white game, but this will actually be against another, like a real opponent, and you'll get a chance to see this BYU basketball team with 3 really good return missionaries that are ready to go. This is Mark Pope's first recruiting class of guys that went out on missions that are back for the first time. So this will really give you a glimpse into the future.
First time he's run out to coach a game without Alex Barcelo.
Right. And he's got some great D1 transfers that have come in. You get to see that all tomorrow night. So join us and watch that game on BYU TV.
Also, former BYU football player and Utah Jazz announcer Alema Harrington's going to join us in just a couple of seconds. We'll talk about the plight of the Cougars and the impact former BYU star Danny Ainge is having on rebuilding the Jazz.
And we love Alema used to do shows for us.
Yeah,
at BYU
we're gonna flashback to
we'll do some flashbacks when Alema was with us. Hosting the desk with us on our Countdown to Kickoff shows and all that. And of course, Alem and I are former teammates.
Yes.
We played together.
Did you see the costume Tom Holmoe, the athletic director, rolled out in?
Goodness.
DJ, can you put that on there? And for those on the podcast, we're going to describe it to you, and everyone else can watch it. But every year he comes up with something that you just go, oh, that is cool. And he rolled out. There he is. Yoda.
Does Marin do his costume?
No.
Who does it?
No, he.
The reason I say Marin, and that's between like Dave and Marin's our. Do we even admit that we wear makeup when we go on?
People know. People know. We can't hide the bags under our eyes.
So Marin is our makeup artist and does phenomenal things. She can do this kind of stuff. I wonder if
she didn't do this, but I can't remember the name of the person who did. But he texted out, "Do or do not. There is no try," which really is the theme of the week for the Cougars.
Well, and that's a
go there and do it. Don't go up and try.
Yeah, he's like, do or do not. There is no try.
That's exactly what it is.
Fierce he is.
Our first guest tonight is the face of the Utah Jazz in both the pre- and post-game shows, also a former colleague of ours at BYU TV, former football player, longtime friend. Pleasure to welcome Alema Harrington to the Wise Guys via Zoom. There he is. There he is. Alema, how you doing?
How you doing?
We are good.
Alema.
We're so happy to have you on. What's going on?
Oh, enjoying the beginning of this Jazz season. You guys know this in the state of Utah. I do some high school football too. So I'm doing getting some playoffs and getting ready for the semis and the finals in high school football, but loving what the Jazz are doing and what Danny Ainge has created over here. And I think a lot of people, including myself, are a little surprised, but plenty excited about what's going on with the Jazz.
It's like everybody keeps going, wait a minute, who are these guys? And not only who are these guys, I think everyone adds this. Who are these unselfish guys that are playing team basketball and don't care who does what and just win? It's crazy.
It's been remarkable. And you guys know as basketball guys and covering the sport for many years, it's an amazing thing to watch when a team plays unselfishly. It's hard to find that, and it gets a little different when you get higher in the levels, and then you have a superstar, and that guy's gonna be ball dominant, is the term that we use. But to watch the way that they're playing right now, which is moving the basketball, the assists, we've had 30 assists in the game, 29 in a game, just ridiculous numbers. And the Jazz went from, I think the last couple of years, they were in the high 20s as far as team ranking, meaning out of 30 teams, way at the bottom as far as assists were concerned. Right now, we're currently number 4 in the NBA. I mean, to go from where we were to where we are, I think that's one of the reasons a lot of fans are watching this go, man, I love this, because it's so different than what we've been accustomed to, certainly in the last several years. Not that, people were necessarily outside of the playoffs, really, hating what the Jazz were doing on the floor, because they had the best record in the NBA. Then they were, 5th in the NBA, just couldn't get out of the second round. And last year couldn't get out of the first round. But it's fun to watch these guys. And I think we're going to watch probably somebody, I'm guessing Markkanen, may become a first-time All-Star. And he's quickly becoming one of those guys that Jazz fans just don't just like, they love.
Yeah.
Bluesville.
Last night he was big time. He was big time.
Bluesville 1, one of our live streamers, says, Alema, sharp-dressed man. Sharp-dressed man. Now, when you're Lemma,
that's a true statement.
Be honest, when you're doing those Mr. Mac commercials, one, how many takes does it take? And be honest with that. And then second, is it harder to sell suits for Mr. Mac in your commercials or maneuver Jazz fans through all of this stuff? And are the trades over, or are there going to be some more?
Oh, man, I'll go reverse on this.
Sorry, that was like 3 points in one question. I apologize.
Give us a half an hour answer for this, because Dave just gave you a half an hour question.
Let's start with the suits.
Yeah. Okay. We'll start with the suits. As far as the commercials are concerned, and you guys know this because you've done your share of this, we probably, hitting, shooting from different angles. We're going to do 2 or 3 takes per line. And my guys at Mr. Mac, I absolutely adore these guys. They're so good to me, and it's been a great partnership over the years. And so I always enjoy anytime I get a chance to do something to promote Mr. Mac and the Christensen family. And so that's an absolute blast. I enjoy doing that.
You've dressed a lot of missionaries over the years.
Alema, I don't know how you do it. When we go shoot promotional stuff, and they go, hey, now I want you to say it like this. Okay, now say it like that.
Now say it with feeling.
Now do it like this. And we do it like I don't know how many times, and they go, that's great. That's a take. Let's go. And I'm like, great. And they go, okay, now we're going to move the cameras over here, and we're going to do the same thing. And then they move the camera. And I'm like, I'm going to go out of my mind. I'm made for live television, not this craziness. So bless your heart for doing that, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll take live TV over something taped every day, all day, every day of the week. Live TV is where it's at.
Yeah.
All right, now let's jump into the trades. Are they done?
Well, the trades, and yes, I don't know that they're done because I can't speak for the front office. but I hope that they're done. And if the Jazz keep playing like this, some I think are concerned. At least this is what I hear from fans. But if they keep winning, then they'll be out of the Wembanyama sweepstakes. And will they do something to disrupt it so that the Jazz don't finish in the playoffs? I don't know. And you guys know this as guys that have played sports, been around sports for so many years. You cannot afford to develop a losing culture. And I think that's what you're seeing with the Jazz. They got rid of their superstars, but at the same time, they brought in a bunch of guys that are hungry and that want to win, and you can't keep them from doing that. And even as you're calling the game and the third stringer gets in a football game, and this guy's, still running for a touchdown, you think, oh man, is that okay for you can't tell a kid that's getting an opportunity to get on the field. I know as a third string guy to get on the field, like, I'm going to try to score.
Yeah.
And so you want that culture on your team. And so, the downside of it might be that you're not in the Wembanyama sweepstakes. And I'm just not a guy that feels like, man, one guy's going to change everything. And I get that this kid is special. Trust me, I get it.
Yeah.
But I like the way the Jazz are playing. I hope the trades are done.
Yeah, I think, I hope so too. I love the chemistry of this team. And the chemistry of this team just seems to fit the franchise so well, right?
Yeah.
We're and we've had superstars here, but the superstars we've had, and I think all the way back to Stockton, Malone, Hornacek, that group, they were unselfish. Like, as big as superstars as they were, some of the greatest players of all time, you always got the sense that they were just grinding and sharing and being team guys. That's kind of the mantra of this franchise. I feel like we have those guys now.
I agree with you. And I think that, when as we recall the days of Stockton to Malone, and there's people that are watching this live stream, they're like, I don't know who those people are, or they know who they are, but they've never seen them. And we're talking, 20 plus years ago, when those guys were playing, but it was a different era and guys played through injuries. It was a different, and you guys weren't paid as much. It's just a whole different animal from the NBA that we deal with today. But if you can develop in your franchise a culture that is blue collar, that is selfless, then you can end up almost like a throwback team in some regards. And I think that they have that certainly right now with Will Hardy, who's this young, fiery coach. Right. And the players that they've assembled to this point. I always look at this because I remember when we got Donovan Mitchell and kind of watched how things changed a little bit over the years, which I think is to be expected to a degree as he became. I remember when he signed his shoe deal. I remember when he made his first all-star team. I remember the first time he scored 30, the first time he scored 40, when he scored 50 in the bubble. And, when individual players start to have those kinds of things happen, I don't know how much you can control how things operate in the locker room. But right now, this team is playing so together and so selflessly that you just, there's part of you that just hopes that it can last forever. I don't know that it can, but you hope that it can.
The great Alema Harrington's with us. The Jazz are off tonight. That's why we're able to get him on our show.
Right. Because we can pull him away from Michael Smith.
That's right. We can pull him away from Smith.
And Michael, typically won't give us anything, because anytime he's off, he has to play golf. That's what he has to do.
Yeah. We'll ask you about him.
Oh my gosh! He's the best tall guy I've ever seen at golf. He's ridiculously good at golf.
Yeah. Yeah, so. He and Danny Ainge actually played in a league this summer, and they did extremely well. And Mike made it this far away from the U.S. amateur seniors.
Wow.
He's really, really good.
His hand-eye, the reason he was a great scorer when he played at BYU is because his hand-eye is so amazing. He's a phenomenal golfer, and Danny's the same way. The only difference between Danny and Mike is that Danny will do anything to win, including cheat. It's just Danny is just win at all costs.
Plus, Danny played defense.
He will run over your ball with a cart and say, I didn't even see it there. I apologize, but you got to play it as it lies. I'm sorry about that. That's Danny. So
Hey, Emma, look, go back in time with us. Blaine and I have been talking about this. We're trying to figure it out. We think that on September 7th, 2013, when that storm came in and hit LaVell Edwards Stadium, you were down on the set hosting Countdown to Kickoff.
Yeah.
And Blaine and I were up in the dry, warm booth watching, and I believe you lost an Italian suit that night. Is that not true?
Yeah, I still tell stories about that moment because, we all get, some sort of an exposure type of story where a storm cell comes through and you might have a lightning delay or, different things happen. I have never experienced something like we had in that game against Texas at LaVell Edwards Stadium. And we had things set up pretty well to protect us. We had a roof over our heads, but the rain was coming in sideways.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it didn't hail at one point. It was wild. That was one of the most bizarre weather systems I've ever seen come through. And typically when something like that happens, you think, wow, man, there's no way we're playing this game. And then it clears out. Yeah. And by the end of that game, you never would have known it had happened. It was wild. For me, we've all had crazy things happen. That's the craziest weather-related thing I've ever had happen.
We were lucky that we have a lot of friends, right? Because we're like, what are we going to do? Because we couldn't go off the air. Remember, we're going down to you. You're coming back up to us. Then Dave says, hey, let's become a weather channel right now.
Yeah, so
and let's get Eubank on. So we call Eubank, and Kevin comes on live with us from up in Salt Lake City, and he's talking us through the storm. And like, we were flying by the seat of our pants live on television for I don't remember how long, but it seemed like a long time.
I remember I was either Michael Miner or somebody in our ear telling us that because we were up there to call the game, so we were half in, half out of your show.
Right.
And I remember saying, Lemon, the guys just got blown off the set. You guys are on.
You're on.
And we looked down there, and I think I saw you drenched to the bone.
Yeah, at a certain point, our mics could not handle the water anymore, and our earpieces, our IFBs for those people at home listening, that's the thing that you have wired up to your ear. Yeah. Those things got so wet that they just stopped functioning. And so, aside from that, and I can't remember if this was my sophomore year and you were still there, Blaine, or this might have been my junior season. We played at Texas Christian University, and it was so humid that it was a weird, bizarre weather thing where the crickets came out.
I broadcast that game. You were playing.
And I was on my mission down the road in San Antonio.
It was my first year covering you guys on the road. It was Bowler Jack and I were broadcasting that game. I couldn't even, Alema, I couldn't believe it.
That was crazy.
There were so many crickets, folks, that when so if you're going out to the right and you plant your foot to cut, your footing would come out from under you because you would smash like 50 crickets and your foot would just slide out on the guts.
Everywhere. We were praying for the seagulls to show up. That was crazy.
It was amazing.
But as a player, that's probably the most bizarre. As a broadcaster, no doubt that Texas game.
I have to tell you, on that game, I had a lot of respect for Bowler because he and I were doing the open. And as he's talking, I look over at him, and he's got a cricket coming up the shoulder of his jacket. I'm like, oh no. Like, what's he gonna do?
My wife would have lost it. What's he
gonna do? And then the cricket went on his neck, and it went down his collar. And I'm thinking, he must not have felt that. He must not have felt it. So he just keeps going, and we're going. We go, and then we go. Well, okay, we'll be right back after this. And we go to the break, and he's like, and he starts like, so he did feel it. He completely, like the most professional thing I've ever seen anybody done on here. Cricket crawled down his shirt. He didn't even care. That's like playing hurt. He's amazing.
Yeah. He's that kind of broadcaster. He's the best.
Our paths first crossed a few weeks earlier. Remember, you're down in Austin. BYU beats Texas. I'm sitting up in the president's box with my companion because I'm on my mission at the time in Austin. And we were serving in the university ward where we talked smack for 3 months before the football team came down. Then you guys beat them, and then I still had 9 months left on my mission. You guys go home, take my dad with you, and I went to Laredo. And as I look back, I said, that's where you and I first crossed. I was up in the booth as a missionary. You're down on the field trying to.
That's awesome. I still remember that trip. And for me, I was fortunate. We played Texas a couple of times. We won both of those games. And I even got a chance to play quite a bit of running back in the game that we played at home at Cougar Stadium that time before LaVell Edwards Stadium. But That's one of the best things about playing this game is Blaine, as you know, right? It's like all of the experiences that you have, like to watch and win or lose, but you'd certainly like to win. The Notre Dames and the Ohio States. I played against Ohio State in the Citrus Bowl. Those kinds of memories are the things that really kind of cement what your college football experience is all about. And then being able to do that with all these different guys. And we have, all teammates of ours that have kids playing now. And Blaine, your boys have come through and there's something really special about watching like Byron Rex, who was a roommate of mine, to see his son playing, or Warren Wheat's son who's playing. That kind of thing is always, it's cool to have those generational experiences.
Yeah, and it's what's really fun too, Lemma, and you can vouch for this. When you've played with a group of guys, well, that's family forever, and it doesn't matter how long you haven't seen those guys. You could not see them for 10 years, and you run into them, and it's still brothers, like always, still brothers, and that's something that comes with college football. That's when we're talking about the Jazz, and I watch the way they're playing, I feel like they have that atmosphere, right? But you typically don't get that in pro sports. That only comes in college athletics, where it really is a family, and that family is a family for the rest of your life, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I love that part about it. And to your point, a guy, Mike Solito, who I played with, was a roommate of mine. We see each other very rarely, but every time we do, it's like, I haven't been apart from him since the days that we were living at 556 West, 800 North down in Provo.
Yes.
And, being able to have those connections and follow each other's families, its kids grow up and all of those things. But it really is something really special. And I agree, you get that sensation, at least that sense from what the Jazz are doing right now. And you heard me cautiously hoping that could continue. It's just not something we see very often at the pro level.
You were a walk-on on the football team, and you're a hip and happening guy. What kind of NIL deal would you have landed back in the day? Bamboo Hut.
I would have gotten free food at Bamboo Hut.
I've eaten there many times back in the day.
And maybe some teriyaki bowl at Hoagie Yogi. This NIL deal thing is a whole different world too. And as we talk about things that have changed the landscape of college football, you hope that those things don't divide locker rooms. And it's awesome when a Built Bar comes in and do the things that they do. That includes bringing a team together and guys that might not necessarily get that type of an opportunity. But I think Bamboo Hut would be, I would probably focus in on that one right away. I'd land that one and they'd probably lose money.
That would be a good one.
It is interesting that NIL, I don't know that it's had much impact yet, but I think over time, if they don't reel this thing in, and you got $1 million quarterbacks and then other guys that aren't making anything, it could cause it to be a more pro sports type environment where the guys just show up for work and go home. I'd hate to see that. And I love that BYU, the very first thing they announced about NIL was this Built Bar deal for walk-ons. It really set the standard, which was great. Yeah,
I agree. I just don't want any of these BYU guys thinking they're coming after my Mr. Mac.
No one's taking that. Hey, no one's taking that from you.
Don't even try it.
You can't. Nobody can dress with a style and the pizzazz that you have to be years into this thing to carry the weight that you carry with us.
We could wear the same things that you wear, but you'd still look better than us.
Yeah,
it's just how you got it going.
That's a fact right there.
Let's look at some numbers. Here's your career numbers. All right, let's talk about them.
Yeah.
30 carries, 104 yards, so over the century mark. Congratulations.
Thank you.
1 reception for 11 yards. That got a first down. But how about October 2nd, 1987? 39 seconds to go against Utah State. Do you remember what happened?
Yeah. I had my first and only touchdown. It was a counter and started off right, came back, I think, to the left. And I don't know how long it was. It might have been over 10 yards, but it was my first and only touchdown. I almost had one as a sophomore against Wyoming, didn't get into the end zone. But that was a big moment for me. I still remember that very fondly. I remember being in the locker room after the game and talking with Lance Reynolds and Norm Chow, and told Norm, thanks for calling that play. And so that was a pretty special moment for me.
Pretty fun. It's funny because you and I as backups, and the guys in front of me, the guy in front of me the last couple years was a little more fragile than the guys in front of you, and so I got to play a little bit more, right? But so Daryl Funk gets the job as the offensive line coach at BYU, and he was at CSU while we were playing. I don't know if you knew that, Alema. He played at Colorado State, and he started as a D lineman at first, then moved it over to the O line. Really good O line coach. But he and I were comparing notes, and then I started to look up some stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, Daryl, like you and I were on the field a lot together, and he's like, yeah, and I go, yeah, I know. You don't need to say it. We used to kill you guys, so I used to play 3 quarters in the games against Colorado State. Like I literally would come in the second quarter, and those are some of my best games because we would be 3 touchdowns up on him at the end of the first quarter, and I would go and play. And he was playing D line. He's 2 years younger. He's your age, and so he played D line against me a bunch, only because we would kill him so bad that their starters were still in the game, and I was in as a backup.
Yeah, I remember playing against Colorado State, you handing me the ball.
Yes.
And I think it was at Colorado State, and we were up by a ton. So, I mean, for a guy like me, you played a lot more than I did, but for a guy like me, the snaps that I got as an actual running back, I played plenty of blocking back, but as a actual running back, I remember most of those carries because there weren't a lot. There were 30.
Alema Harrington, former Cougar, current Jazz broadcaster on the Wise Guys tonight. Hey, like everybody, you've had challenges in your life. You've made them public in a way that's helped a lot of people fight with opioid addiction, similar to the struggles Max Hall went through in his days in the NFL. Max is going to join us a bit later tonight. But your challenges began when you were at BYU, and you're winning that fight, and we congratulate you. So my question is this: how powerful and healing is the medicine of serving others when you're fighting or controlling your own demons at the same time? Because you've done a lot of service that way.
That is it. That's the medicine. And I'm so glad you're having Max on. I'm such a huge fan of Max and how he has come through this and the work that he's doing. And I follow him somewhat from a distance and have a great admiration for what he is doing, because I remember when that story broke and I was like, wow, man, that could have been me so easily. And so to see what he's doing, but for me, is the opportunity I get as a counselor now at Ardue, when having gone back and gotten my substance use disorder counseling degree, those are the best moments that I have from my own sobriety standpoint, is those moments where I'm teaching this and I'm sharing my experience. And I think one of the biggest things when you're going through it is it feels so literally hopeless. Like there's no way, because and we're strong men, and you think I can overcome anything, but you cannot overcome this thing. It is so powerful, and you've watched lives crumble with guys that you admire, and it's like, how could this happen to this person? Like, this thing will take you down. And so having come through on the other side and having overcome it, and I didn't overcome it. This is, my Savior, Jesus Christ, and the atonement, and my relationship one-on-one with my Creator, with God. And so being able to share that with somebody and give them some hope. Like, you know what? I know how bad it is because I've been there. I mean, I know how bad it is in a very real way. And you can get out of this. I tell people that I'm working with, I said, the bad news is that you don't have what it takes. But the good news is neither do I. And you can get through this, but you're going to have to turn it over to God and let God fight this battle. It's a battle that he's already won. So I appreciate, let me just share a little bit of that, because it's been such a powerful part of my life. And I'm so grateful for Max. I hope to do something at some point with him. Yeah. So let him know that I'm admiring him from afar, and I'm so proud of the work that he's doing.
We'll mention it to him when we're on with him later. They've started this facility down there that helps people, and they're expanding that. And you know, we have to mention too, like, you're a licensed substance abuse disorder counselor. You went back and got your degree in that. Licensed, do a lot of work in that area. We have to go be like a guest counselor and work with Max down there. Our two guys that we're so proud of and we love so much. That's really, really cool that you're doing that. And we're really, really proud of all that you've come through and what you've done and what a great example you've been. It's amazing, both you and Max. So,
hey, we'll get back to football in just a second. For someone who's struggling with some of this and needs some help, what should they do? Where should they go? Who should they call?
Well, yeah, the first thing is you got to get to a point where you're willing to reach out, because it's so hard. Because like I said, so for so many of us, we got this pride that's part of our makeup, and it's almost counterintuitive to try to ask somebody for help. It's embarrassing to ask somebody for help. So if you're struggling, find somebody that you can confide in. Let them know, like, hey, I need some help. Like, this thing is kicking my trash, and I don't know what to do or how to do it. And if you can admit that, then you know, that's the first step, right? The first step is to admit that we have a problem. But there's resources available. You know, rdo.com is where I work, and we're always, you know, working towards getting people in to get the treatment that they need, or just get an assessment. Because just like any other disease, there's different stages, and you can catch it at different stages. Typically we wait until it's stage 4 per se, before we seek the help that we need, and then you might need residential and some intensive treatment. But you can catch this earlier than that, and get into some outpatient treatment and some counseling. And so the first thing that you do is just reach out to somebody. To the resources, you can find resources on the internet, and of course, rdo.com or any of the different treatment centers that are out there.
Great.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're going to make you be a counselor of another type. So, and we know you do a phenomenal job with that, but you know, I think BYU right now needs some counseling. So for the next couple of minutes, you're going to be the wise guys. You're a counselor with us, and the BYU football team needs some help. What advice would you give them right now? 4-game losing streak. As a guy that's been there and played and has won and has lost, what advice would you give this team right now to try to correct this?
Well, you know, the solutions to the problem are rarely very different, right? The first is to admit that, like, look, we've got a problem. And the reason why that's so important is because if I don't have a problem, then I don't need any help. So if we're BYU right now, it's looking at this 4-game losing streak, and instead of trying to put lipstick on a pig or try to, you know, sugarcoat it, it is what it is. And let's own that and figure out, okay, what the problem is. And then again, similar to what my experience was with the addiction and recovery, it's getting back to the basics. And the basics are very simple. And it's trust, it's faith, it's integrity, it's accountability. All of those things are the solution, but you know, we find ourselves separated from that. We don't know how we got there, but it had gotten so good that we have a hard time admitting that we went from that good to wherever we are lost right now. Yeah. So I look at BYU, and I'm a huge BYU fan, always will be. And, you know, a true blue BYU fan and alumni or alumnus. And so it's getting back to basics. And part of the basics is, you know, for Coach and what he's done, the beauty of what he did initially was come in and establish a culture. And so it's for BYU, I look at it, let's go back and figure out what our culture really is. And some of those things are going to be football related. It's going to be, you know, we tackle, we move the football, those kinds of things. But other things are going to be maybe not so much related to football. Or somewhat related, like accountability, let's say, and being able to reestablish what those values are. Somebody told me once, I thought this was very interesting, we were having a conversation about culture. And he said that, culture isn't a heritage thing. It's not a race thing. That's not what culture is. Culture is values. And so I think for BYU, trying to reestablish culture is recognizing and understanding what BYU's values are. I'm always, the guy that is in the camp of, we're not going to lose because of the honor system. We're going to win because of the honor system, right? The honor code and what BYU stands for. And it's like, well, we'd be better if we got rid of these things, and, they're holding us back. Those things are part of our culture. Those things are part of, we do those things because we believe in them. And if we've stopped believing in them, then maybe we've lost our way as far as our culture goes. We might need to reevaluate what our values are. I'm not saying that's what's happening with this team. I'm saying that's happened over, different times in my time watching, covering, playing at BYU. So reestablish the culture, and Kalani can do that. Yeah. That's what he does.
Yeah, he's great at that, huh?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was having this conversation with my boys, and they all played. Now, Kellen, my oldest, and he's going to be on the show with us next week, I think. Yeah. So Kellen started 2 years at free safety here, and what people will be interested in, when Kellen first came, they were bad. It was the couple of really bad years, and he came on his mission, went on his mission, and came back, and then he finished up, and they were really good, like nationally ranked, 11 games each year. And so as we were talking to this, he sent this saying, and he said, I don't know, and I just want to get your take on this saying.
Yeah.
He says, I don't remember who wrote this. It sounds like something Winston Churchill or somebody may have written, but he says, hard times make tough men make easy times make weak men, and weak men make tough times.
Yeah.
It's a circle of life.
What's your thought on that? Because
I mean, when I think about it, as we study, as I study, let's say, the gospel and the Book of Mormon, and the thing that becomes very plain is the Nephite pride cycle. For me, it's just the cycle of pride, which was just described by the quote that was it Kellen had.
Kellen sent that to us.
That's exactly it. And so, as you hear me talking about the Utah Jazz and hoping that it does, they're able to maintain it. It's all about, for every one of us in every aspect of our life, we're trying to maintain that, because success seems to breed complacency. And so we got to figure out, how do we, choose humility when humility is really hard, when people are patting you on the back and saying, man, look at you, look how good you are. It's like, how do you choose humility in those moments so that we can have the character of a person that will not have to be compelled to be humble. For me, I'm totally that personality type. Like, I have to be compelled to be humble. And if I could just be humble because of the word, or choose humility, then I wouldn't have to go through, these down cycles. But we've covered college football for 30 plus years. Texas has down cycles. USC has down. Notre Dame has downs. They all do.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to figure out, okay, how do you sustain it if you can? And there's always going to be times where you're going to have to readjust it. And keep in mind, this is just 4 losses in the season.
Right.
We're not talking about BYU has been winless for 3 years straight. So, but still, the point being, and to that, the point that quote is making, is you got to find ways to choose humility. And I think that if we can do that, then we avoid the pitfalls.
I'm going to take a parallel back to something that you said, Alema.
Yeah.
You talked about with folks that are suffering from addiction, there's different stages, and if you can get in earlier and recognize what's going on, maybe the fixes are a little quicker and a little earlier. And I think the good news, I feel like Kalani's recognized, this is a 4-game losing streak, which they haven't had. They played some really good teams during this time. I feel like he's already dissecting and looking at seeing, before it gets epidemic and they have a losing season and then another losing season, I feel like he's already pulling some strings and doing some things and tying into some things to turn this thing around. So this is a short lapse caught early in the cycle before it becomes a full-on pride cycle. And that gives me some hope. Yeah. And I think there are parallels there, right?
No, absolutely. There are, because again, whether it's our personal life or business world or, on the football field, we're dealing with the same, the same types of situations where the success it's hard to not get complacent when you're successful. And we have been very successful over the years. And now we have an invitation to the Big 12, and then, all the things that means for the program. And so it's very easy to kind of lose sight of what got you there. And again, in recovery, addiction recovery, it's like, okay, let me go back to the basics. Then the basics are prayer and connection with divine. They're, humility and accountability. It's the same thing, regardless of what we're talking about. So I agree that in the 4 losses is hard because we're spoiled. We're really spoiled as BYU football fans. Our expectations are extremely high. That's not a bad thing. It actually helps us to recognize and try to remedy the problem before it gets too bad. And so we're all looking for, and I don't know what it's like in the football office, and if they just go, man, these people who are trying to diagnose us and trying to prescribe the remedy for us, because they know better than us. What I always believe that the coaches have more information than we do. Yeah. And so, I believe 100% that they've got the right leadership in place to figure this thing out and to make the changes necessary to get back on track. And that could happen this weekend. You beat Boise State, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, see what happened when we got back to basics and we figured this thing out. We beat a team that's on a really nice run right now, and nobody picked us to win. So then you can start to rebuild that way.
And you can talk about the chip that you just played with on your shoulder in this game that made you fight and made you focus so that you were in the right spots when you were supposed to be and convert on 4th and 2. We got to remember what that just felt like, and we just won. And let's go do that next week and the week after. You're right, Alem. It can turn around really quick in sports. So
fantastic stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, we're not gonna let it off the hook without 5 questions.
Yeah, we do this 5 questions thing.
It's been so good.
5 questions.
Bring it on.
So, hey, before we do 5 questions, I was gonna tell Alem. I don't know if Krista told you. I was up in Salt Lake, and I just want to tell you this because your boys are the sweetest. I love your boys, and I came out with one of my sales managers from my other business, and there was these 2 boys changing the tire, and I didn't recognize them right away, and I'm like, oh, look at those kids are changing that tire, and I didn't see your wife was around back, and so I go over and go, listen, guys, you guys need some help? They're like, yeah. And then your wife came around. I'm like, oh my gosh, and we hugged, and I said, let us change this tire, right? So we changed the tire quick, and we got her on our way. But the thing that I loved was I said, okay, see you guys. And your boys both came over and gave me a hug. Yeah. And they, they know me a little from football camp and that. Yeah. But I just thought how it's loving kids are a blessing, right? But that's a reflection of the parents. And I was really appreciative that they just came over and did that.
Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And credit goes to my wife for the things that these kids are learning as they grow up. But that's where we learn it, right? We learn that stuff we're growing up, and some of us don't. And then you get into, a situation where you have the opportunity to learn those things. But I don't think you find success or happiness without having those things. So we got to learn them along the way somewhere, right?
Amen to that.
So look, when you get a letter in the mail and it's a note from Blaine saying you owe him $400,
that's not
this
true,
is where this came from.
No, we do have a tire shirt. My guys and I do a tire shirt. No, it's just, hey, and you know what, kids, remind me of the boys. Like, I know Krista, of course, but tell me the boys' names again.
Gabriel and Isaac.
Yeah, so tell Gabriel and Isaac I'm proud of them, and I love that they came and gave me a hug before they left. That said a lot.
They'll love that.
So,
yeah, thank you.
Okay, so now time for 5 questions. Okay. Favorite sports movie?
Favorite sports movie? Wow.
Hey, remember this show's only 2 hours, so.
Brian's song.
That's one we haven't heard that I love.
Tearjerker.
Yeah. So favorite singer or band? Here we go. By the way,
Michael Jackson.
Oh, nice.
Jackson.
He's going all old school.
He's going old school. He is old school. That's how.
So favorite breakfast cereal?
Breakfast cereal is Fruity Pebbles.
See, anybody that goes like some stinking like healthy cereal, we kick them off the show forever.
Someone went shredded wheat on us a couple weeks ago. They'll never be back.
Yeah, we're like, sorry, can't come back on the show.
Shredded wheat, and not the frosted shredded wheat.
No,
Yeah.
no, yuck. So favorite BYU moment?
Favorite BYU moment was probably the parade that we had after we won the national championship, keeping in mind that I did not play that entire season. I was a scout team guy in 1984.
Yeah.
But I still remember that moment and feeling like, wow, man, we really accomplished something very special here. So I'd probably go with that.
Love it. I got to be part of that, so I love that one.
Number 5, favorite thing about Michael Smith, your Jazz broadcast partner.
Honestly, and you guys probably have this type of relationship too. Mike and I have these conversations when the camera is off that are just like so they're nutritional, you know, like I get so much out of it. I don't know how else to say it, but we have these, you know, moments that we share and stories that we tell. That is my favorite thing is that relationship that I have with Mike and those little conversations we have when the camera's off.
That's awesome. People don't realize when you're in broadcasting, covering sports, you get to be part of a team just like you were when you're on the team playing sports, and so you get these great relationships like a family. It's a family, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey, we are proud of you. We appreciate you. You're representing BYU, and we congratulate you with how you do that. And most importantly, we are glad to be one of your friends.
Well, likewise, guys. I really appreciate it when I got the invitation to be on the show with you guys. I've been telling everybody, hey, I'm going to be on with Blaine and with Dave McCann. I'm going to be talking BYU. You know.
Hey,
So you guys are doing a great job of covering the Cougars and giving BYU and Cougar Nation something to be ours. You know, we all want that. We want our guys doing it, and it's great when it's on national TV, but we love all the coverage that BYU TV and you guys are bringing to it. So thank you for that.
You got it. And tonight was our first shout out to the Bamboo Hut. May it live forever.
Yes, the Bamboo Hut. Great
Alema,
memories.
thank you.
Thanks, Alema. Love you, brother.
Guys.
The great Alema Harrington. You see him before and after every Jazz game. He does such a great job, and he used to be with us, and so we still claim him at BYU TV as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Outstanding. Before we get to our next guest, let's go over a couple of pieces of information in regards to the football game on Saturday up in Boise. It's a 7 o'clock Eastern start, 5 Mountain. It's on FS2. That's where it's going to be because there's going to be a Game 6, most likely, in the World Series that night on Fox. If that was to change, we'll let you know, but plan on FS2. So make sure you get that channel, and there are ways you can get it if you don't get it. Game day is going to start at 5 Eastern, 3 Mountain on BYU TV, which we know you get.
Right. You get BYU. Everybody gets BYU TV, whether it's Dish, Direct, your cable system. So tune in with us, 3 o'clock. This is the 13th meeting between Boise State. Boise State leads 8-4 and 5-1 in Boise, which is really crazy to me.
Yeah, they've had our number up there.
And they've been a great partner for BYU during independence. I've got a lot of respect for Boise and being there for BYU when they needed a rival and a partner, and they've been great. So uniforms, BYU's going to wear the all-whites with the royal trim.
I love those.
Yep, they're one of my favorites.
It's going to be rainy, 60% chance of rain in the day, 40% in the evening, a rain-snow mix. But the high is 47. That's not too bad.
Not too crazy for this time of year.
Low's 34, which is still warmer than the other night.
Oh my
down
gosh,
here.
Yeah, that was
And the Cougs have got a chilly 8-point. They're 8-point underdogs.
Yeah, which is really surprising to me, and I don't agree with that. If I was setting the line, I wouldn't do that. I'd call it a toss-up right now. So I'm surprised, even at home, for Boise State, that they're that much of a favorite. But I guess people didn't like the way BYU finished last week. Here's some bad news: Cody Epps out for the season with a shoulder injury. So this is just another long, and he's been so good. Like, his future is so bright. And that really hurts to not have Cody Epps. And BYU's down a bunch of backers too, and that hurts on the defensive side. And Malik Moore likely not to play the rest of the season. They're starting free safety. Lot of injuries have mounted through this season that they're impacting BYU. I still think they got enough guys left to win if they play well this week.
Broncos are 6-2. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They beat New Mexico, Tennessee Martin, San Diego State, Fresno State, Air Force, and Colorado State. The losses to Oregon State and UTEP. The UTEP loss is what It caused them to start firing guys and rebooting.
UTEP is currently 4-5. They lost 27-10. They couldn't move the ball at all. So they changed some things on offense. They've been scoring much better. But keep in mind, this streak comes. Like, think about who BYU's played this year.
Yeah.
Liberty, I would compete for a Pac-12 championship. I mean, that's how good Liberty is. We're going to see how good Liberty is this week, right? So,
because they play Arkansas on the road.
But they look very, very good. East Carolina is really on a roll right now. So this win streak, they've got 6 wins this season. The only FBS team with a winning record that Boise State has beaten was Air Force 2 weeks ago. They beat them 19-14. And so, they beat New Mexico, who's 2-6. They beat San Diego State. This league this year, the teams that are usually really good, San Diego State's a perennial power.
Not good.
San Diego State's 4-4 and not playing well. Colorado State's 2-6. Fresno State, who's been good the last couple of years, is 4-4. When they beat Fresno, it was at the time they were 1-4 coming into that game. They've turned it around a little bit. So Air Force is the quality win. 19-14. Boise State had 227 yards passing and 115 rushing. They look really, really balanced.
Yeah.
Air Force had 96 passing, which is not surprising. But they held Air Force, who usually goes over 200 to 175 yards rushing. So the defense has been pretty solid all year long. The offense come alive during this streak. And so they're a little bit scary right now. Balance on offense, freshman quarterback that runs it and throws it, and really good on defense. But they haven't played a team the caliber of BYU this season since the beginning when they got beat by Oregon State 34-17.
Let's hope the Cougs take their A game up there.
Yes.
We already know who's up there. TJ Bass is a member of the BYU Alumni Board overseeing the Mountain Region, which includes Boise, Idaho, where the Cougars are playing Saturday night. It's a pleasure to welcome TJ to the Wise Guys. TJ, thank you for being here. It's Go Cougs, say it back. This is going to be the last time the Cougs are up there for probably a long, long time. Kind of a bummer to have that rivalry tap out, isn't it?
Yeah, we're sad. We're sad for that, but super excited to move to the Big 12 and see the Cougs succeed at that level.
So you're okay that they don't come to Boise anymore and they don't have the rivalry as long as they're moving on to bigger and better things in a P5 conference, huh?
Well, you're asking one of the guys who's in charge of planning the tailgates, so
tell us what you have planned for this weekend.
Yeah, we have a great lineup planned this week. So the tailgate will be from 2 to 4 p.m. Ahead of kickoff, of course, and we're expecting Cosmo to show up for a little while and hang out and greet the kids. There'll be mint brownies for purchase. And maybe
nice!
Yeah, there you go.
We have a special order coming up, fresh from BYU. We're not making those ourselves. We're gonna buy the real thing.
You have to order them. Yeah, you got to get them from here.
Right. So we'll have probably face painting, some music going on, and I think most importantly, we're gonna have a big service project connected with this tailgate, and we're really excited about that. So we're doing a couple of things. One, a more traditional service project for a local rescue mission here, the Boise Rescue Mission. We're collecting clothes and winter hats and winter gloves. We're heading into the cold season here. And the Boise Rescue Mission serves a lot of the homeless population. Something else we're doing, we know there's actually quite a bit of animosity between Boise State and BYU, maybe more on the Boise State side. They really don't like us up here. And it's you get that when you wear your BYU gear around town. But we're actually going to be collecting canned food for the Boise State Student Food Pantry. So about 35% of Boise State students have food insecurity or suffer from some form of hunger. And so we're teaming up with Boise State. We're coordinating with the president of Boise State and their crew. They're going to be asking their fans to bring canned food, and we're going to bring canned food and really show some love at this last game in Boise for BYU for a while, unless they get into the Idaho Potato Bowl, which we would welcome.
Yeah.
On that, but hopefully they don't have to do that either.
TJ Bliss is with us, not Bass. I typed out my own typo. But TJ, you've got a unique job in the state of Idaho that sometimes puts you in a unique spot between when it comes to BYU and Boise State. Tell us about that.
Right. So I work for the State Board of Education here in Idaho, which is the governing board for Boise State University. I work very closely with the administration there, and that actually leads to a lot of opportunities, a lot of like this coordinating this service project. We're able to do that without a lot of the red tape, and that's been good. But it has put me in an odd situation from time to time, not in terms of who to root for, but where I'm actually sitting during the game and who I'm allowed to root for, perhaps. That's been a challenge in the past.
Wait, are you sitting with Cougar fans this Saturday, or are you having to sit over in that Boise State section?
Oh, I'll be sitting with Cougar fans.
Okay, thank goodness.
I know a little bit about this story. So in the game here recently, you're in the president's box of Boise State, full of Boise State fans, and you're a BYU fan, but they think you're tied to Boise State because of your job. That's called inner conflict, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of inner conflict. There were actually quite a few BYU alumni in that box, but most of them were diehard Boise State fans. And I thought the problem last year, you recall, we were favored to win that game big time. And so I fretted over what to wear and how not to be too obviously a BYU fan. And I worried about having to not cheer for BYU. I thought that would be my problem, that I would have to just kind of keep it in. What ended up happening, of course, is that I had to cheer for Boise State because everyone's doing fist bumps and high fives, and they just expect everyone in there. I mean, the athletic director's sitting next to me, and it was perhaps the most painful experience of my life. But by the end of the game, once I got over the shock factor, we went down on the field, and it was really fun to see all the guys, both teams, playing hard. And I won't repeat that mistake, but
that's taking one for the team. Sometimes you have to take one for the team.
Hey, let's talk about something more pleasant than having to do that. When you were a student down here and you were in Provo, that was during Jimmermania time. What was that like to be in Provo and to be a student and a fan during Jimmermania?
Oh my gosh, it was for a lifetime BYU fan like me. I grew up in Spanish Fork. I can see the Y from my house. To be there during Jimmermania was absolutely incredible. And I had a different look. You probably all remember Kyle Chilton, basketball. So he was in our ward. And so I got all of the inside scoop on Jimmer from Kyle. I remember the day they came over for Sunday dinner and he said, I've got to take Jimmer to the airport to go get the National Player of the Year award. And he was worried about his car being clean enough. And I assured him Jimmer probably wouldn't care how clean the car was, but it was fun to kind of live that both sides and the media side of this, like seeing Kyle having to deal with all of that media attention. And his Coach Rose said, your goal is to make sure Jimmer doesn't fail his classes.
That's a big goal.
That's a lot of work.
That's his main job. So, but to be there in person, I went with my dad. He's passed away since then. And probably some of my best memories of BYU were sitting in the Marriott Center watching Jimmer and Jackson and just the whole team, Brandon Davies, the whole crew at that time was just incredible. You can't repeat that. I don't think you can repeat that.
I don't think so either. It'll take a special guy.
We had a lot of fun covering him in those days. That was some of my fondest broadcasting memories were crazy games with Jimmer in them. So.
Hey, before we hit you up for the keys to a BYU win this weekend, is there a website or how can BYU fans who are not in Boise help participate in your service project?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think they can go to the Boise Rescue Mission. That's the best place to go.
Okay.
That's BoiseRM. Let me make sure I get the right dot something, not .com. BoiseRescueMission.org, I believe. Yep. BoiseRM.org.
Do they need to give your name or any of that kind of stuff, or just come in as a cold donation?
Just come in as a cold donation. You can donate. It tells you how much it costs to buy, how many meals for the homeless.
Okay.
We'll let them know. They're going to set up shop at the tailgate. So for people who are coming live, you'll get to interact with them. They're a ministry. They're a church basically, which is really exciting. They'll probably be set up inside our cultural hall because it's going to be bad weather on Saturday. So we'll have an inside tailgate for those who want to be warm, and probably stuff going on outside as well.
That's awesome. So BYU alumni and fans are going to help feed Boise State students and those in need in the area. That's awesome.
And we love every week when Cougs are on the road, there's a service project, and we think that's a great way to get exposure and do good things in the world and represent BYU. We appreciate you guys doing that, TJ.
Well, we're excited to do it.
TJ, give us 3 things that need to happen for BYU to win Saturday night, and we're going to write them down and we'll revisit them next week.
We're going to revisit them, see how you did.
Oh man, well, I've been to several Boise State games this season, and so I can give you a little inside scoop.
All right.
like you said, Boise State's on fire, so they're going to have to contain. They're going to have to contain the energy, right? Or they're going to have to match it. Let's say they're going to have to rise up to the level Boise State is at right now.
Okay, match energy.
I recognize that. I mean, the obvious, they're going to have to play defense. I don't know what's going on with defense, but Boise State can run and throw, and they're going to have to tune out all of the chatter. I mean, the stuff that happened in Oregon is probably going to happen here. Yeah. So they're really going to have to focus mentally. It's going to be a mental game as much as a physical one.
Match energy, play defense, and tune out the chatter. Those are three keys.
And the tune out the chatter is like mentally tough. Like you can't let them, because I know those Boise fans, they'll get personal, right? And you guys just tune it out, right?
Yeah, and also that's a key to the game for the fans as well, the BYU fans.
Yeah.
How many do you think we'll have in there fan-wise? There's always a bunch, but somehow they sometimes get their own tickets in their own ways.
This is the disappointing thing. It's $100 a ticket for anybody.
No kidding.
So that's going to diminish the number of fans that are there. Obviously, the momentum we have right now. So I can't even predict that. Not as many as a normal year, and probably not as loud and boisterous. So
will
those
it be,
that are there need to really give their Cougar spirit up.
Will it be sold out? Are the Boise fans buying them up at that price? So it's going to be a sellout because.
Oh yeah, the game was sold out 3 weeks ago.
Oh wow.
Earlier than that. Yeah.
Well, if you're a player and you're on the road, you much rather play in front of a hostile crowd than in front of a quiet crowd. So you can get energy from that just as well as you can from your home crowd. So I think BYU is going to like that.
It will be hostile.
Yeah, they don't like us too much up there, do they? And why is that? It's two big powers in the West.
Talk about how appreciative we are.
What did we do to those guys?
Like I don't know why they don't like BYU. What's up with that?
I don't know. We've lived here since 2013, and I guess I was obtuse to it or unaware of it, but it's pretty stark animosity, and maybe some of it's connected to the church. I don't think so. I think it's all really just centered around BYU, and I think from BYU fan, we have a lot of respect for Boise State. They cracked the glass ceiling. I think all the teams who get a chance to play Boise State really respect that. But boy, the fans here, I don't know if it's, their kids didn't get into BYU, so some of them are upset about that. We were talking about that earlier in Twin Falls today. It's just something. It's like playing in Cache Valley.
Did they know that the greatest player in history of Boise State's a member of the church, Kellen Moore? Do they know that?
If they do, they don't care. They're probably more upset about the fact that some of the greatest quarterbacks at BYU committed to Boise State and then left.
That's true. That's true.
That recruiting.
They don't like that either.
I get it.
Hey, TJ, we appreciate all you do for BYU. Let all the alumni up there know about the Wise Guys. We're here every Tuesday night, and then they can follow us throughout the week and stuff. And it's all about where the teams are, what they're heading, what they're doing, and then the great fans that surround them and make things happen, and especially with these service projects. So congratulations again, and we're gonna hold you to getting us a victory up there Saturday night.
It's on you guys up there, the fans.
All right, go Cougs.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You got it anytime. TJ Bliss, member of the BYU Alumni Board, which oversees the Mountain Region, including Boise. They got their hands full because it is hostile, but the Cougs coming to town and just the great activities that you can get involved in. And it sounds like you can get into that pep rally, which is indoors, which is
if it's going to be rainy and cold, indoors is the best place to be.
Hey, so we got his keys. Let's revisit before Max comes on with us. And Max Hall is going to join us in just a second. Let's review Brandon Doman's keys to a victory last week against East Carolina. BYU got beat 27-24 on a last-second field goal. Brandon was with us last week, former quarterback and an outstanding BYU alum, and he rolled out three things that would need to happen for BYU to win, and then we said that we would revisit them this week on the show.
Right. So he said, number one, that BYU needed to convert third downs because he said first downs equal touchdowns. BYU was 6 of 13. That's not awful.
It's better than they have been doing.
So that's not awful.
So
that's
let's
just under 50%. We're going to give him a check. He said score each time they cross the 50. So I'm looking. So it says.
So they got across the 50 5 times. They scored on 4 of them.
Right. So they scored 4. The problem was, and it put them in a position to win, right?
Yeah.
But the problem was they scored early and then they just went on a skunk at the end of like they could not score in that second half.
And the one trip they got across the 50, they drove down to the 12, went for it on 4th and 2 and got stopped.
And didn't score. He said they had to score. So remember, BYU got the ball coming out at half. And they went right down and scored, which we expect them to do, and then they did not score again.
Yeah.
In that game, you can't.
So that
you
does
can't
not
get
get a
skunked
check
down the stretch. We're not giving them a check. That's an X.
And then 30 was get off the field on third downs. ECU was just 2 of 8 on third downs.
And it's like BYU gave up some yardage in that, but I felt like defensively last week they did some things. They created some third and outs when they needed to. We talked about complementary football. You know, when they had a big punt return, BYU got to stop after the big punt return. They forced a field goal attempt and they missed. They. You know, on a quick change, it's almost like having a quick change when you get a long punt return. I thought the defense did enough to win last week, and the offense needed to convert one of those 2 fourth downs. They had a third down opportunity where Mason Wade got knocked off of his route and then tried to turn it back up the field, and they couldn't complete the ball when they could have. The biggest one was that 4th and 2 when they went down. Maybe they should have kicked the field goal, but
should have kicked it.
Yeah, they probably should have kicked the field goal.
Or done a different play. Get the ball to Puka. I'm sure that play isn't sitting well with our next guest.
No.
Pleasure to welcome back the winningest quarterback in BYU history. His 32 wins. That's more than Scheide, Nielsen, Wilson, McMahon, Young, Bosco, Fowler, Detmer, Walsh, Beck, Sarkeesian, Nelson, Hill, Wilson, and Hall. That's quite a list. And
don't you
he
love
asks
how
us to
throws me
read
in there,
every
Max?
single name before he comes on.
He throws me in there every time. I like that.
It's a pleasure to welcome Max Hall back to the Wise Guys live in Arizona. Max, how was that intro? Was that better than the last one?
That was maybe one of the best intros of all time. Just keep naming all those great BYU quarterbacks and put me at the top. I'm good with that.
You got that. Yeah. Hey, how's the high school team doing? What's going on with the playoffs coming up?
Yeah, we're doing really good. I actually just left practice to come be with you guys, but we are 7-1 right now. We got 2 more regular season games. Things are looking good. We're number 3 in our region and number 12 in the state, I think, right now. So seems like our team is kind of meshing at the right point. The offense we're rolling. We're doing really well. So I think we got a good shot, man, to make a run in the playoffs.
Now your quarterback popped on with us last time before the season began. How's he doing?
The last 3-4 games, he's been on fire. Like on fire. In the last game that we played in at halftime, he was 15 for 16 for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
Against a very good opponent in Higley High School. So it's fun, man. He's getting better every week, and the team seems to just be hitting at the right time. So
and you guys are playing against teams. We talked about this last time, but for those that didn't hear, you guys have had to move up. It's almost like the relegation and move up thing in soccer over in Europe. Even though you're not near the size of some of these other schools, you're playing up a couple of levels because you've been too good, right?
Yeah. So in Arizona, how it works is they put you in the conference based on your last 3 seasons. So if your last 3 seasons, if you're going deep in the playoffs, they're going to move you up a division. So in 4 years, we went from Division 3 to Division 5, and that's really fast to move up 2 divisions.
Yeah.
But it's a credit to our coaching staff, to our players, to our program of growing and getting better. So yeah, we have about 1,100 kids in our high school, and we're playing other high schools that have 4,000 or 5,000 kids in their school. So we're at a little bit of a disadvantage, but we just scheme them up, Blaine. You know,
that's all you got to do.
Got to scheme them up.
Max is the offensive coordinator, and the head coach is Ty Detmer, which I just think is phenomenal. What kid wouldn't want to be on that team? I'd transfer just to have a shot at being the water boy of that team with these 2 guys.
I come play quarterback for that team. So
hey, your team, the Cougs are 4-5 now. What's going on? What do you see as the problem?
I knew you guys were going to ask me that. Here's my thing. I haven't, I'm not watching every play of the game and rewinding it and really trying to understand what's going on. So from kind of an outside guy looking in, I don't know what's going on in the meeting rooms. I don't know, what's going on behind the scenes. But, 2 games ago, it just seems like our defense couldn't get off the field. You're looking at 10, 11, 12 play drives every time they got the ball. So the offense is standing there for 20 minutes, not doing anything. And I think that disrupts the flow of the offense. And it was bad. I only got to see the first half of the last game. And it just seemed to me like there's just no, I don't know what the right word is. There's no momentum in the offense. There's no flow in it. There's no rhythm. There's no
confidence.
You know what I'm saying? It just feels like we're pounding our heads against the wall trying to get first downs. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know what, if it's scheme or if it's reads or if it's receivers not creating separation. I don't know what it is, but I think we have a great coaching staff who needs to just understand, how do we just get the ball to our playmakers? How can we be creative and get the ball to our playmakers? Maybe throw some more screens, some quick stuff, some quick games, some RPOs, do something to, because I mean, look at the guys we have.
Yeah.
Look at the guys we have. I love the receiving core that I had when I played, but I mean, this is a great receiving core. We got a great offensive line. So I think we just maybe need to be a little bit more creative. But again, guys, I want to preface that with, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes in the meeting room. So that's just what I see.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were just talking about it, Max, earlier in the show, Dave and I, as we kind of got in, and I just said, defense has struggled at times, but 2 of the last 3 games, the reason we got in this conversation is because we were looking at the college football playoff rankings that just came out tonight, and every one of the top 10 teams just goes out and scores 45 a night. And nobody notices that Tennessee gives up 30-something again because they don't care, because they score 50. You know, TCU's number 8 in that ranking, and TCU doesn't stop anybody, but they score every time they have the ball. And I said, college football has changed so much where outside of Georgia, nobody in that top 10 plays lights out. I mean, Ohio State doesn't play lights out defense anymore. Teams just outscore people. And 2 of the last 3 games, BYU's defense, I'd like to see them get a couple more stops a game. But in last week's game, they turned back and forced a 3-and-out after a long punt return. They got a short field and forced a field goal that was missed. They had several 3-and-outs in that game. BYU's offense scored on the first drive out of the locker room and never scored the rest of the second half. They went punt, turnover and downs, punt, turnover and downs, punt. And they did the same thing in the Liberty game. I'm like, oh, man. Yes, the defense has a lot to do. They've got to get better, and they got to be able to defend the run better. But on the other side, people haven't talked much about the offense. I'm like, I'm with you. They've got to get some type of rhythm, because in college football today, you got to score in the 30s or you can't win. And they just, they lose a game. You lose games 28-20, and you don't win. In the old days, we used to say if you could hold a team to 24, you could win. You only had to score more than 24. I don't think that's true anymore. I think you got to score in the 30s to win. Am I crazy? Am I looking things wrong, Max?
I don't think you're crazy. And that 24-point thing is funny, because we had the same thing with Bronco. He was like, if we can score 24 points or more with no turnovers, it's like a crazy percent that you're going to win the game.
Right.
But the face of football has changed. I didn't run any RPOs. We
Right.
weren't running a ton of spread stuff, The offensive, they've gotten faster, they've gotten quicker, they've gotten more aggressive. And so you got all these things going on. And if you have a good coordinator, it's tough for a defense to stop you, right? Like you gotta mix it up and be creative. I kind of have this, as a coordinator in high school, I kind of have this saying of being creative yet simple. Let's be creative. Let's do different things with motions and shifts and formations, but let's make it simple for our quarterback and get the ball to our playmakers. And I found that when you do that, things tend to roll. Now the receivers are more into the game. You know what I'm saying? You get more people involved, more people are excited to be playing. But going back from that, because I don't like to, I guess as a coach now, it's not about offense, it's not about defense. What are we doing as a team? And I feel like right now the team is just we're not together. We're not meshed. There's not the same passion and excitement that you saw in the first couple games of the season, right?
Yeah.
It's just the feel is off, in my opinion. And I don't know what that is, but I think Kalani needs to do something and I think he is doing it, to change the culture, to pay more attention to detail, to start doing the little things right, because those things add up. And so that's what I see.
If you're the coordinator on Saturday night and Max or Jaron's gone into this hostile environment, little rain in the forecast at Boise State, they want blood because BYU put 51 on them last time they were up there.
We were just talking to the alumni guy up there. He goes, Boise hates BYU.
Yeah. So you got your quarterback there who's struggled to put some games together, and then at moments he shows some brilliance. What few plays do you start with to get Jaron Hall in a groove that might set his tone for the night?
See, I like that. I'm a big guy. Even when I played, I wasn't a big, hey, let's take a shot first play or do something like that. I needed to get into rhythm. I needed to complete some screens. I needed to maybe take off and run and take a hit, or maybe get the back in the flat. You know what I mean? Just something simple concepts Maybe a play action rollout naked or something like that, where I can dump it down to the tight end. Something to get me going, to get me completions, and give me some confidence as we go throughout the rest of the game, right?
Yeah.
And so I would hope they would come out and be like, hey, how are we going to get the ball to our playmakers? You know, what easy screens or drag screens, or how can we get the ball to the tight end over the middle? How can we use play action but get the ball out of Jaron's hand quicker? Because I feel like on our play action, he's sitting there, you know, hitching, and then he takes off running or something. Like, mix it up. And again, creative yet simple. And I think that'll kind of get Jaron back in rhythm and going and get his confidence back up.
It's interesting, Max, that like the philosophy, you know, you and I both hate to go, hey, back when I played, but guess what? When we both played, we had prolific offenses, top 5 in the country type offenses. We always used to say, the one way we're going to be able to run the football in this game is if early in the game we make that D-line, those linebackers run from sideline to sideline. So let's throw a swing, let's get it out and out, speed out. Let's throw a screen over to this side. Let's make that D-line, instead of pass rushing or defending the run, let's make them run to the left sideline, and the next play they run to the right sideline. Backers are going back and forth and back and forth. And even if these are only 4-yard plays, that defense is running all over the place. Now you do that for a couple of drives, and now you run the ball. You're into the second group, or they're gassed, especially at elevation. And now you get an opportunity to maybe run the football, or you got guys that are running all over the place, and now you play action and you get a ball over the top. I love the idea of making that defense defend the entire field sideline to sideline for a couple of drives and get them gassed a little bit. What about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And you always want to do that early on because, you know, defenses are excited. The D-line's all pumped up. They're going to be coming after you. So, yeah, let's get them running. Let's tire them out. And I love what you said, too, because I think our offensive line is good enough that if we do what you just said, Blaine, if we make it simple for Jaron, if we get the ball out, maybe a jet sweep early. You know, I love that. No, they love that jet sweep thing. So get them running to side, and we have a good enough offensive line that we should be able to run the ball consistently. Right. But we can't be predictive when we're going to run the ball and what formation we're going to run the ball out of. How can we motion or move guys to different formations so we can get the look that we want? Right. So again, I don't know what's going on, but just from what I can see, we can do a few more things. And I like what you said, get the defense running early, because I think we have the line to be able to smash the ball in the second half.
Max Hall, BYU's winningest quarterback in school history on the Wise Guys tonight, live from Arizona. We had Andrew George on a couple of weeks ago and Dennis Pitta before that. Both those guys say there's no one who likes to lose, and no one hates losing more than Max Hall.
I love that he said nobody likes to lose. Like, that's just a given. Nobody wants to lose, but nobody hates it more.
Nobody hates it more than you. So you won 32 games here. Never lost 3 or 4 in a row, but you guys faced some challenges along the way. What did you do to get through those as a team?
Yeah, I remember, I can't remember if it was my junior or senior year. We had just lost to TCU, and it was a big loss. Like, it hurt us. Like, it kind of knocked us out. I think we were getting close to the top 10. It kind of knocked us off. And, you know, I was getting some publicity with the Heisman stuff, and because we were playing really well, we lose, all of that goes away. Right. And I can see the team, you know, the demeanor change. And so for me, I had to figure out something. How do I get us back on track? And for me, it was raising the intensity in practice, raising the competitiveness, and getting it to where guys are competing in practice, to where practices are almost harder than the games. I think that was the attitude that we took on from Bronco of, hey, we need to get after it more. We need, like I said before, we need to pay attention to detail. We need to be on time. We need to do all the little things right, and kind of take it personal and have a chip on our shoulder going into the next game. I don't see that energy and passion from our team right now. I see we lost. Okay, we go to the next game. A couple things go wrong and everybody hangs their head. That's what I see. Now, I'm not trying to bash the coaching staff or the players or anybody. But having been a player and now a coach myself, the momentum and attitude of the team, I think, means a lot on both sides of the ball. And right now, I think there's finger pointing going on and some controversy that I think is ruining the culture of the team.
It's interesting. Like, you started that answer, Max, by saying, yeah, I decided that we needed to be more competitive and bring an edge to practice, which I appreciate, because we've all of us that have played recognize that when things aren't going so well, it takes leaders inside the team. The coach can tell you to do something all he wants, but until some of the guys that are producing on the field say, guys, this is what we're going to do and this is what we have to do, and take that leadership mantle on their shoulders. And if it's going to get intense in practice, it's because the guys are going to do it. So how much of that is on the players, and how much can a coach really impact that?
Well, I'm going to read you a quote by Mike Krzyzewski right now. Okay. One of my favorite quotes. He says, the single most important ingredient after you get the talent is internal leadership. It's not the coaches as much as one single person or people on the team who set higher standards for that team than they normally would itself. Okay. One of the greatest coaches of all time said that. It takes internal leadership and commitment and buy-in for a team to be successful, not the coaching staff. The coaching staff can scheme and do everything you want, but until the players are invested in what they're doing and believe in each other, scheme doesn't matter. We can throw all that out the window because you're not going to get the most out of your players.
Steve Cleveland said last week when he was on it, players win games. That's what he learned as a head coach. Players win games. That's the thing I learned,
because we asked him, because remember when Steve took over BYU's basketball program, Max, they had won one game. We're like, how do you change the culture? And he talked about some things that he did, personal relationships, give guys confidence and all that. But he says in the end, players win games, not coaches.
Or fans or
like
media.
He's like, players do it. And he says,
hey, saying of, hey, you're a coach is only as good as his players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And once he got some players that were dogs that would go out, and then they started to win a bunch of games, right?
So
if you didn't have a good quarterback, Ty would call you in the office and go, hey, why aren't we 7-1? You go, we are 7-1 because I got a good quarterback. He makes both of you guys look good down there. That's what a player does.
He does. Drew's doing a great job, man.
Hey, what do you think? A couple more questions for you. What do you think of the new media deal with the Big 12 and what impact that kind of money as BYU becomes a full partner, as much as $50 million a year from the Big 12 deal with Fox and ESPN? What do you think of that?
Well, I didn't. That's the first I've heard of the new deal. I haven't heard about it yet.
It was announced over Sunday morning.
Yeah, they're saying that when it's all said and done, BYU's each team share, based on the new extension, would come in at around 45 to 50 million. And Dave and I, we've seen some numbers where we think BYU at its best when they're maximizing everything that they do and playing in the NCAA, like
maybe 12,
maybe 10, 12 million. So this is like 5 times what they've ever had. What kind of impact could that have?
I think it's huge all around. I mean, not just like what they're getting in the program or swag, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. But I would love to see us use that money to recruit better, to get more fan involvement and things. And then whatever they need inside. But my biggest thing that I see is we need to spend more money we need to go recruit. And, I tell people all the time right now, ASU and U of A down here are not doing so well. A lot of Arizona players are wanting to leave state. And I don't think we recruit Arizona hard enough. Like there's some really good football down here. Yeah. And so I think recruiting, number one, and number two, whatever they need internally. I don't know what that looks like, but I don't know. What do you do with $40 million, Blaine? I mean,
I'll tell you what ends up happening is, it really benefits the entire program. Like all of the sports can have better facilities and better, you know what I mean? It's just, it really does. And it's funny, kids these days, when they come on a recruiting visit, it's amazing to me how much facilities matter to them. They walk in the weight room and go, well, this isn't as nice as USC's weight room. You know what I mean? Or this, and they go into stadiums and they go into locker rooms and they look at, wow, that looks like an NFL locker room. And wow, look at this stadium. So I do think one of the first things Utah did when they started to have big time money is they redid their indoor practice facility. They redid their locker rooms. They've expanded Rice-Eccles State. Like facilities, if you can get kids on campus for some reason, like I don't know that I cared. Did you care about what the facilities looks like, Max, when you were getting recruited? I don't remember that.
I said yes before I even saw the facilities. You know what I mean?
Right. But it's different now. They want to know what uni combos that you have and what kind of facilities you have. So I think you have to invest in that. So when people come on campus, they go, "Yep, this is just as big time as what they just showed me at Texas, this is just as big time. This is way better than what I saw at ASU. I'm out. I'm going to BYU. So I think we're going to have to invest in some of that.
And that's kind of what I meant about recruiting and whatever they needed internally. So yeah, if they want to update the weight room, I know they just kind of did the locker room. They could maybe redo the locker room in the stadium. Like there's a bunch of stuff that they could do with it, right? But not unfortunately, it is what it is in today's world, right? The players love the drip. They love the show. They love all that stuff. Even me in high school, I make fun of the kids all the time. Like, oh, okay, you got your towel on. What else? Okay, some wristbands on. Like, what's the swag look like? What's the drip like? You know, and they love it. You know, the whole look good, play good thing. So it is a different generation, and you have to appeal to that generation, or you're not going to get some of the top-notch players in the country that I don't think we're getting right now.
Max Hall is with us. Before we get to your keys to the game for Saturday night, Alema Harrington was on the show earlier tonight, and another one of our friends, been through a lot of challenges and conquered similar demons that you've conquered. He did say that, one, say hello, and two, he'd love to work with you and come down and spend some time with your foundation and all the things that you have going on, as he's equally as involved in treatment for folks dealing with opioid struggles. But Alema's another one of the great guys who've overcome so many things, and both of you out doing a lot of good.
I love Alema. And I remember right when I was going through my thing and I got out, he was one of the guys who reached out and let me know what he was doing and what he was all about. And, I would love to hook up with him. So yes, we got to get in touch somehow, and I'd love to work with him. But
we'll put you guys together, because he was like, yes. He just said, he says, I love Max. I appreciate Max. And Alema went back to school and got his degree in that area and got certified. He's a licensed counselor, and he's doing a lot of great things. And he says it's medicine for him to be in that, along with doing all of his stuff with hosting all the jazz shows and do all that he does. He's doing this other thing on the side. He's like, I got to get together with Max. I love what he's doing. We told him we'd mention that to you, and that somehow we'd hook you guys up.
All right, three keys to a winning Saturday. Number one,
get Jaron Hall rolling early.
Like it. Number two,
defense has got to play with more energy and passion.
Energy on defense.
Yep.
Okay.
Passion.
And number three key to getting a win out of there.
Number three is establishing the run game. So if we get Jaron going early, like we talked about, and then can establish the run game, then the play action comes off of that. But I think you have to start not in play action. I think you got to get the ball out quick, like we were talking about, go to the run game, and then set up some of your play action.
Great stuff.
I like it.
Hey, can we get a commitment from you tonight that after you win the Arizona Championship, you'll come back on and show us what that trophy looks like?
Yeah, we'd love that.
Absolutely.
You guys like? Hey, are you tracking? Like, is this something you guys could you win that thing this year?
Yeah. So Arizona has that open playoff where they take the top 8 teams in the state, no matter what division, and they play the open playoff. We made the open playoff last year, and we lost in the first round to the number 1 team. We got the 8 seed.
Yeah,
nice.
I'm kind of back and forth, but I'd like to go compete for a 5A state championship, and I think we got the team to go win it. So we're number 12, and the top 8 get in. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 2 weeks and where we end up.
So if you end up, say you end up 11 or 10. Then they take the top 8, but then you just get to play in a championship in 5A then, right?
Correct.
So that may be the best thing that you could do at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we want to do. And, it'd be tough for us, and we're not quite there to where we can go beat the Chandlers and the Hamiltons and some of the really big schools in our state. They got 120 kids on their sideline. We have 50. It's just more depth and all that. So I would rather go take these kids and have the experience of playing at ASU Stadium and getting to try to go win a championship. And we got a great group of kids, and I hope it works out for us. We're gonna work our butts off, see if we can get it done.
I was gonna say it's kind of like Utah fans. I tell them to be careful. And I know Max loves Utah fans now. He tells me he loves Utah fans now. I know you do. It's crazy, but I hear Utah fans say we need to get into the college football playoff. I'm like, well, be careful what you wish for. Like, just go get in the New Year's 6 where you can
start there.
Don't go play Georgia right now and just get killed, because that doesn't do you any good, because they would get killed by Georgia. And I say, be careful what you wish for. So sometimes it's okay to be be in a New Year's 6 and not be in that CFP. Yeah. I think BYU would be thrilled to be in a New Year's 6.
Hey, we're proud of you, Max. Good luck with the rest of the high school season, and we hope to talk to you soon. When are you coming up next, by the way? Are you going to make it for the Utah Tech game, or are we looking next season?
I'm going to try. Trust me, if I can get up there, you two will be the first ones to know, because I want to be on the show. I want to be front and center. We
will put you front and center on game day.
If you're up, tell us if you're up, and we'll put you on game day, our countdown show.
I would love to. The hardest thing right now is my son has games every Saturday that I coach. He's got his Pop Warner stuff going on. That's why it's hard for me to get up there. But
understood.
I think we have a bye coming up soon, and I'm going to try to get up there. I'll let you know.
Hey, this weekend, my Landon's team playing in the championship. This weekend, championship weekend.
It's
this
that
weekend.
Pop Warner time of year.
And it's working. I'm flying home. I land at 9:50. That game's at 11. We got to be in studio at 1. Like, it's the perfect Saturday.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's a good one.
So,
Sounds like it.
We'll talk to you
tell
soon.
him good luck for me, okay?
All right, Max. Thanks, brother.
Max Hall, outstanding quarterback and offensive coordinator. Thank you, Max. And we love that he hangs out with us on the show. And yeah, we'll get him on game day. If he comes up, he's on game day. There's a few things you get. And it seems like every time we mention that he's the winningest quarterback, we should get like a sandwich or something like from him, like lunch with Max every time we mention. So he probably owes us like 5 lunches already. But if he comes up here, he's front and center on game day.
Yeah, I do love
his attitude.
It's a really good thought, because this is a quarterback. He said that when he played, and think about it, Max, elite level college quarterback, and was, before he ran into his struggles, he was and got injured. He was a starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals in the National Football League. This is a high level competitor. And what did he just tell us? When I was playing, I didn't want to throw the ball vertical early. I needed to get in a rhythm. Coach needed to get me in a rhythm. I needed him to call some screens, some quick throws, like some easy, high percentage throws, complete a few balls, maybe run the ball, get knocked around a little bit, and then I was ready to roll. And that's what he's suggesting for Jaron Hall this week against Boise State is get him in a rhythm, get the offense in a rhythm, make the D run sideline to sideline, and then settle into what you're doing, but let that guy feel a rhythm early in the game and get going. I think that's great advice from Max Hall, who's one of the greats at that position, and now a coordinator in his own right down there.
Hey, TJ Bliss, who was on with us earlier from Boise, running the alumni activities up there, he texted to say that Chad Lewis is going to be there at the tailgate on Saturday, so you can swing by and see Chad and say hello. He's been on this show as well, one of the great Cougars. So Chad Lewis will be up there with some others, and Cosmo in that group at the tailgate Saturday in Boise. Let's go over some news and notes. And I love that we have time to do that today. We've had some great guests. Speaking of guests, Kellen Fowler is going to join us next week in studio, and so is Brandon Campbell, plays bass guitar for Neon Trees. He'll be here. We challenged him to see if he could play Rise and Shout on his guitar. Caleb Chapman played it on his saxophone.
Can he do it? Can he do Rise and Shout?
I'm not sure.
You gave him the heads up.
I gave him the heads up.
That's our
I hope he's
expectation,
practicing, and if he's listening right now, maybe he just started practicing. David Nixon will be with us on November 15th with DeLewis Porter, NASA pilot and BYU grad. That's going to be fun. Ben Cahoon, Tyler Hawes will be with us November 22nd.
Yeah, excited about it. But we had a great lunch with Ben the other day, and I'm excited to have Ben on. When he left the CFL, he was the all-time receiving leader in Canadian Football League history. So he's a great receiver at BYU. I just remember all of his acrobatic catches. Like, it didn't matter where the ball was. You'd go, well, no chance. And then all of a sudden, it's like, what? Did he just catch that?
He got
how
some
did he
great
just catch
passes,
that?
some Sarkisian and the like. And we just got confirmed Glenn Kozlowski is going to join us on November 29th. So look forward to some great guests in the month of November. All right, some news and notes. Cougars in the NFL. We'll make our football picks. This day in history, that's going to ride us out over the next 16 minutes. And let's start with something we've kind of talked about a little bit already, this Big 12 media deal,
right,
which was announced over the weekend. The Big 12 signed a 6-year extension with ESPN and Fox through 2030 and 31, worth over just a little bit over $2.2 billion. BYU joins the Big 12 next July We're not terribly sure how the payout structure is going to begin, but we think it's tiered for the four new members.
Like maybe you get a half share, and then it goes from there for the first couple of years. So.
But Iowa State's athletic director texted over the weekend when the deal was announced that he's saying that it's pretty much going to be about $50 million annually for each school from this deal.
And I saw some quotes from Baylor's AD, who we got a good chance to meet and interview, and their president when they were up, basically confirming that. The AD said, the numbers that you're seeing, I can confirm, are quite accurate.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And look at this. Let's put that long-term perspective here. BYU has never announced what they make each year from ESPN.
Yeah, right.
We've just assumed through this and that and people we talk to that's around $12 million to get 5 home games, and then BYU TV gets the other one, like we have Utah Tech coming up on November 19th. So let's just say it's 12, but if you multiply that 12 by 4, and then you add 2 more million, that's what you get with the new Big 12 deal every year. And now forecast that over 3 years as an independent with ESPN, let's say 36 million. And again, that's unconfirmed, but that's ballpark. New member of the Big 12 at that rate would be 150 million. That's why you have to. That's why, to credit Bronco, independence is not. What was his word? It's not.
It's not. He said it's not sustainable.
Not sustainable. It was sustainable for 12 years, and it got BYU into the Big 12. Not sustainable forever unless you're Notre Dame and you have your own deal, and even they have a side deal with the ACC.
Right.
But
I'm sure.
my goodness.
I'm sure NBC's deal for Notre Dame is similar to this, right?
It has to.
They're the only ones that can do that, and they have a scheduling agreement with ACC because that's another thing that's difficult. It's funny. You look at this schedule BYU has this year. When they scheduled Liberty and East Carolina number of years ago, Tom Holman, he's filling up going, okay, we need to have some winnable games. Let's get East Carolina. We'll pay them $500,000 to come in. Let's do a home and home with Liberty. Liberty's just an upstart. It's just like Liberty's a great football team right now, and East Carolina's on a roll. Like, you don't expect those two teams to be that. You just never know what you're going to get. Of course, when they scheduled all those Pac-12 teams last year, you didn't realize that you were going to be that good and go undefeated against the Pac-12 and 6-1 against P5s. Like, you have to schedule so far ahead, you really don't know what you're getting, and you don't have the resources of a bunch of the schools. Certainly BYU has more resources than East Carolina and Liberty, but you don't have the resources of an Arkansas.
Yeah.
You don't have the resources anywhere near what a Notre Dame has or a Baylor or any of these schools that they're playing, but they're going to. They will.
Yes, they are.
And when they do, and then scheduling becomes a breeze because you have a league schedule and you can schedule light at the beginning of the year to navigate some wins early in the year and guarantee that you get bowl eligible every year. Things are going to get a lot better for BYU. And we talked with Max about some of the things you can do with all that money.
I was happy at church where everyone, every time you turn around, is asking you about what's wrong with the team. And this Sunday, because that Big 12 announcement came out early, they'd say, what are we going to do about our Cougars? I'm like, did you see the Big 12 media deal?
Yeah.
No. And I told them that. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Got backed off the ledge and realized the future is going to be awesome. But we're going to lose a bunch of games before it gets awesome.
And both for Mark Pope and for Kalani, going to be tough to compete early on, right? But the dollars and the facilities to be able to get and the type of player that's going to want to come play in that league is going to allow BYU, mark my words, they're going to be competitive in that league in football and basketball. Yeah. And it may take a little bit, but with the kind of resources they're going to have, I believe that they're visible enough that the level of player that they're going to get is going to be better.
Cross-country news, BYU's men and women's teams dominated the WCC championships. They are the first sports on campus to finish their run in the WCC. It's kind of exciting before joining the Big 12. They go out in style. Listen to these top 10 finishes for the men. They took first, second, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and ninth.
That's for the women, domination.
For the women, the Cougars finished 1, 4, 5, and 9. Yeah. Men are number 2 in the country. Women are number 5. Up next is the NCAA Mountain Regional in New Mexico, and then the NCAA Championships on November 11th. BYU is the defending individual champions on both the men's and women's side. Remember last year?
They could win it.
And now the teams are going with a shot to win it. So shout out to everybody involved. Ed Eyestone's been on the show, him and his staff. Dominance in the WCC.
Well, and cross country and in track and field in the spring, that's a sport on the men's and women's side where BYU can go right into the Big 12 and compete for championships day one.
Absolutely.
Which is really, really fun. So how about BYU basketball exhibition game? That's going to be tomorrow night. We talked about this earlier in the show. They're going to play Ottawa, not Ottawa, Canada, Ottawa, Arizona, 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain on BYU TV. Pre-game coverage is going to start at 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain. The game, 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain. So we got Tyler and Jaron, and we're part of that pregame show as well.
Yeah, so an hour pregame for all the basketball games,
Right.
whether we're doing them or not.
Right.
And then when we're doing them, it makes it fun. We just go right on into the show.
So, some really fun. We did that blue and white game. Some real fun new faces that people are going to see out here. Let's start with Rudy Williams, the Coastal Carolina transfer. Man, what a personality he is. And I think he's going to be a dynamite player. He'll be manning that point. He'll start at point guard. Jackson Robinson, transfer from Arkansas. Long athletic player. His role yet to be determined. And then Noah Waterman from Detroit Mercy, who grew up in upstate New York, not far from me, tiny little Christian school that he went to. This is a 6'11" dude that can step out and knock down threes. 45% three-point shooter career. He's going to bring a new element to BYU. He'll play a stretch 4. You get Foose down in the paint and him out there stretching defenses. It's going to be really fun. And then some familiar faces. I mentioned Foose, Fousseyni Traore, Gideon George, Atiki Ali-Atiki, Spencer Johnson, Trey Stewart, who looks phenomenally in shape. Yeah. How about Ali-Atiki, Atiki Ali-Atiki? They were doing like a jump test the other day. He jumped up and touched 12.6.
That's me on top of a ladder.
That's
stretching.
2.5 feet over the rim. That means his armpit is on the rim.
Let's see some dunks. Let's see some dunks this year.
Let me tell you how many shots you can block from 12.6 up there. So that's going to be really, really fun. And then some new freshmen, some return missionaries that are going to be big-time contributors. You got Dallin Hall back from Mission, Richie Saunders, who really has looked good early on here, back from Mission. Tanner Toulson, who we saw make a couple of threes. We had his mom on the air when he knocked down a 3.
That was a cool moment.
Got a coup out of her right there. Yeah. He's a great shooter. Braden Moore, a freshman from Nashville, Tennessee, who's looking good and physical. A lot of new faces, but a lot of talent. Mark describes it as a very skilled team, meaning they've got quickness, they can handle the ball, and it's a team that should be a really good shooting basketball team.
So join us tomorrow night for the exhibition game on BYU TV, and we'll watch all these guys play and kind of get a feel for them before the Bengals of Idaho State come in next Monday.
And we'll have that one too. Right?
Yeah. So, we're football, basketball.
We're in crossover season, so
this is a great time. A lot of fast food in there too.
You're going to get a lot of us in the next couple weeks. So.
Women's basketball, the season opener is next Tuesday, November 8th at Colorado State. The home opener is Saturday, November 12th against Montana State at 4 Eastern, 2 Mountain on BYU TV. Amber Whiting's New Look Cougars, they defeated Westminster in an exhibition game last week, 72-51. Lauren Gustin, 25 points, 24 rebounds.
What?
She's going to be with Shaylee gone.
I said that the first time. I said that the first time I saw that right after the game. And every time I read that, I'm going, what?
Yeah.
25 and 24? That's the definition of a monster game.
So we look forward to seeing her play all year long.
Yeah, women's volleyball, they're number 18. They're at San Francisco on Thursday and at Santa Clara on Saturday. So a Thursday, Saturday road trip. Next home game is against Pacific on November 10th on BYU TV.
Women's soccer, the Cougars still number 13. They play at San Diego tomorrow, Wednesday, and then wrap up the WCC regular season Saturday at LMU on BYU Radio. BYU and Santa Clara battling for first place. They tied each other.
I hate that there's ties now.
0-0 or 0-0, and so they may have to settle it at least in the postseason. They go to the penalty kicks and overtime and stuff. Thank goodness. BYU's got 6 ties this year.
Yeah, it's amazing. I like going to extra time and then penalty kicks. In my opinion, that's the way to do it. But they're not doing that in women's soccer now. So, hey, after further review, don't forget about after further review. We're going to talk about Bronc busting next week because they play the Broncos. That's next Tuesday. We'll break down BYU's last blast at Boise State. We're going to look ahead to the home finale against Utah Tech on November 19th. So next Tuesday, join us. That's available 7 Eastern, 5 Mountain, streaming on the BYU TV app. Just before an all-new Wise Guys next. So you can watch that show. You can stream it live, or stream it from 5 to 6. Then come join us here on Wise Guys Live from 6
It's a win-win
every Tuesday night.
All right, before we get to our picks, let's play Where Were They and Where Are They Now?
Okay.
on the morning of September 10th, just to give you an idea of how college football has played out for a bunch of schools that were on this track, and then all of a sudden they're on this track, and they didn't see it coming. On the morning of September 10th, before BYU's big win against Baylor, this is what it looked like for a number of teams in the top 25, all with huge expectations. And where they are now also includes the new playoff rankings that came out. So then BYU is number 25, now unranked.
Right, and remember, they moved up to 12 pretty quickly, and now they've dropped off at 4 and 5. Number 9, Baylor is now unranked. They're 5 and 3.
Number 8, Notre Dame, unranked.
Yeah, 5 and 3. Now those two still at 5 and 3. They have a chance if they.
But like Notre Dame plays Clemson this week.
Right.
That's not going to work out for them.
You don't think they're going to beat Clemson?
No.
I think it'll be. Notre Dame's the kind of team that just stays close to everybody, but not winning enough. So, how about number 6, Texas A&M? They're unranked in 3 and 5.
And they got players leaving. They're a mess.
Look, we think BYU fans are out of their minds. When Texas A&M is 3 and 5, they're really starting to freak out.
How about when Oklahoma, who was number 7 on September 10th, is sitting in here in November unranked?
Yeah, at 5 and 3. And then at number 15, Michigan State, unranked. And 18, Wisconsin, unranked.
And Wisconsin fired their coach. It's madness, but we hate losing. We started the show by that everyone wins. We hate losing. Everyone does. And a lot of teams are. And
who was it that came on with us and said there's there's always high expectations? I think that was a lemma where it's like we get spoiled. They're 10 and 3 last year, with a P5 schedule last year.
Right.
And they're 11 and 1 the year before, of course, because of the pandemic.
So then we just expected to continue.
And you expect they're just going to win 10. But I'm telling you, in the Big 12, even when BYU's loaded and the money starts to take an effect and they've got as much talent as anyone, look how good TCU is this year. They've had a couple years where they've been down. Yeah. And what happens in that kind of league, BYU's used to playing. Hey, honestly, when Max played, we played two P5 teams a year at most, and play in a league that we could just tear through. And I think the league was better when Max played and when TCU was there and Utah was there and they were good.
It was a tough one.
But even then, the bottom half of that league was awful. So when you're in the Big 12, an off year isn't 9 wins. That's what BYU fans are used to, an off year being 9. An off year when you're rebuilding is you hope to get to 6 or 7 and get to a bowl game. And then a typical year is 8 wins. And then when you really have all the magic come together and you win 10 or 11, then you're ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, and everyone's happy.
Right.
Question from John Stone. What's going on? Why isn't Isaac Rex getting the football?
They're running routes for Isaac, and they're just, for some reason, they're not seeing the middle of the field. There were some routes last week where I saw Isaac. Tight ends are open early, and you got to hit them early in the route in those seams. I just feel like, for some reason, Jaron's not seeing that part of the field. And the big throwing lanes are just kind of out on 45-degree angles. And when you've got wide receivers as good as Puka, and as good as Chase Roberts, and as good as Cody Epps when he's healthy, Romney when he's healthy,
Keanu.
Those guys are getting big-time separation. That takes away a little bit. But I agree. I would like to see a little bit more focus on getting the ball early to the tight ends. I feel like tight ends are chain movers. Remember Brandon Doman said first downs equal touchdowns?
Yeah, that's true.
You just move the chains. Tight ends are chain movers. Yeah. Isaac Rex can be a chain mover. And we talked about early throws, getting the ball out quick, screens, quick throws, quick dump offs to the tight end. Those are some easy throws. Bootleg passes. Yeah, I'm with you. I think tight end needs to be more involved in the offense.
All right, here's our football picks. Last week, I lost 4 of 6. It wasn't a great week for the Wise guys, I'll be honest. I lost 4 of 6. You lost 3 of 6. You picked up one because you went with the Utes, and there was just no way I was going to do that.
And the Utes, I'll tell you, at the end of half, I thought, man, Utah's going to lose this. And you talk about officiating. Like, that targeting call on Washington State at the end of the half killed them. Killed their momentum. And to me, it wasn't targeting. They kicked their best defensive player on the field for Washington State off for the rest of the game. And Utah was lined up to kick a field goal. The review comes down from the booth, and they get a touchdown.
That was a killer.
Game-changing.
That was a killer. All right, here's our picks. Number 1, Tennessee. At number 3, Georgia.
This one's the toughest one this week to pick because
Tennessee just hopped them in the new poll.
Tennessee is the lights out team offensively, one of the best offensive teams I've seen in college football, and Georgia's the best defensive team.
I'm going Georgia.
Okay, I'll go Tennessee just for fun.
All right. That's I don't know the spread out of Vegas
Tennessee.
on that. Number 24 Texas at number 13 Kansas State. Texas keeps wanting to be back.
I think Kansas State's going to win at their place.
I do too. Okay. All right. Now here's another tough one. Alabama, who's number 8 in the new poll, or number 6. LSU is number 10.
And it's at LSU.
At LSU.
LSU's
been playing better as of late.
I think Bama is going to is going to go to LSU and win.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that LSU can just fix it all in one season.
Yep.
Clemson, number 4 in the poll at Notre Dame. I already told you I'm going with Clemson.
Yeah, I'm going with Clemson too, but I think Notre Dame's going to keep that one close. They'll keep the score down.
And this is one that's just like, Wake Forest 21 at North Carolina State 22. This is one of those where it's like, well, I'm not really sure who's going to win. I'm going to go with the home team.
Yep, I'm going to do the same, North Carolina State. So the only one we have different is Tennessee. I got Tennessee and you got Georgia.
Okay, that's going to be awesome. Awesome game. Cougars in the NFL this week on Sunday. Kyle Van Noy, Michael Davis, and the Chargers are at the Falcons. So those two are going to tackle Tyler Algier, who's starting for Atlanta. Got a touchdown.
I got Tyler Algier on my fantasy team. He's doing me some good.
Picked him up. Picked him up.
So, but I have Christian McCaffrey and Chubb. You have Chubb.
Yeah, Chubb's off this week, so
I'll have Tyler play for Chubb, and then I'll put Pollard in because he's in one of my reserves.
Oh, yeah, put him in.
So I'm okay with that.
The Cowboys might be off this week.
Yeah.
Check that.
So, hey, the Panthers, Brady Christensen at the Bengals.
Jamal Williams scored a couple of touchdowns Sunday on my fantasy bench.
He has the most touchdowns in the league, doesn't he?
I think so. Yeah. Packers at the Lions. That should be another nice day for Jamal.
Yeah, and then the Bills at the Jets. Zach Wilson threw 3 interceptions this last week, and the Jets fans are out of their mind. They need to chill out.
And he threw for 300-something yards.
Hey, they haven't won this many games like in forever.
And they're not gonna beat the Bills. The Bills defense is gonna. The schedule getting tougher for
And Josh Allen is the standard in the league at quarterback. The Vikings and the Commanders, Dax Milne, who's having a nice season playing special teams and getting some rotation at wide receiver.
Ravens at the Saints. Monday Night Football with Taysom Hill, front and center, and Danny Sorensen. They're starting to use Taysom a little more, which is smart.
He's throwing the ball. He's playing quarterback and throwing it.
You get the ball in his hands, things happen.
Right.
You leave them in other people's hands, and all bets are off.
So good.
This day in history, November 1st. It's amazing how fast October went, even though it was 4 losses and no sacks.
November 1st.
But here we are. It all starts.
So we're going to go all the way back to 1512.
Yeah.
We're going to start in 1512. One of my favorites, and I've been to this place and seen this, which is pretty cool. The first public viewing of Michelangelo's paintings on the Sistine Chapel. He painted that ceiling at Sistine Chapel.
So
today's
the first you could actually go see it and go, what is up there?
It's pretty amazing.
Now, fast forward to 1800, John Adams becomes the first U.S. president to live in the White House.
Yeah. Where was George Washington inaugurated? On the steps of the Federal Building right off of Wall Street in New York City.
Yeah.
So
different.
But we know because we saw the musical Hamilton, we know there's some type of a backdoor deal between the Virginians and going with, Alexander Hamilton worked a deal with the guys from Virginia to move the capital down there, and he got his way. Yeah. And everybody wanted to be in the room where it happens. That's a Hamilton.
Okay.
So 1966, Sandy Koufax becomes the first 3-time winner of the Cy Young Award, Dodgers.
Also that year in 66, the NFL awards a franchise to New Orleans. They picked the nickname Saints because it alludes to November 1st, which the Catholic faith recognizes as All Saints' Day. That's how the Saints became the Saints.
I didn't know that's how they became it. So
1966 today.
1982, Honda opens up its first U.S. plant in Ohio and produces the Honda Accord.
Didn't everyone have one of those, it seemed?
Yeah. When we were in school, everybody had a
And if you didn't have one, you wanted one.
Yep.
1994 on this day, the Bulls retire Michael Jordan's number 23.
Yeah. And then in 1997, Titanic makes its premiere in Tokyo.
1997 on this day, the ship sank.
Yes, it did.
Titanic. What a movie that was. You know what? I've never watched it from start to finish.
Why?
Because I'm not interested in watching a ship full of people I've come to enjoy go down.
You got to watch it. And because there's
I'm weird that way.
There's some big questions like, was there not enough room on that floating piece of wood for both of them?
It's
Like, why did he have to drown? Why couldn't she just slide over a little bit and let him climb on the piece of wood with her?
seriously.
No,
I got a lot of questions.
He
about
had to
her.
he had to die, and she had to live. So
And that's now Celine's song. That's awesome.
yeah. Hey,
And I've seen her sing that in person a few times.
You
It's
watch
just like
the
spectacular.
end. Don't you ask that question every time? Like, why doesn't she just slide over and let him climb up there on that piece of wood with her?
Yeah.
No, he just
Team
sings,
player.
and then she has to let him go.
Birthdays today, 1935. Gary Player.
One of my favorites. When
Great
Gary
golfer.
when I was at the Masters this year, Gary and he led off the that first tee on the par 3. Man, players just revere him. Pretty cool. So, and his swing is still silky smooth. 1960, Fernando Valenzuela, the Dodgers pitcher.
I didn't like the Dodgers, so I didn't like him, but he was good.
He almost turned around backwards before he delivered the ball.
And Tim Cook's birthday, Apple CEO, today, 1960.
And then how about the great sweetness deaths? 1999, Walter Payton, the great running back of the Chicago Bears, teammate of Jim McMahon, passed away on this date in 1999.
Just before he died, a little bit before, he was doing a banquet speaking to the NCAA in Vegas, and I was the MC. So he and I sat next to each other for about an hour and a half having lunch, talking about McMahon and the Bears and BYU.
Jimmy was great, but the reason Jimmy wasn't greater is because Sweetness was behind him, and they just tossed that ball to him a lot.
I still can't believe they gave the ball to the fridge in the Super Bowl and not Walter Payton.
Yeah, why?
That's probably the
Fridge
biggest
was a
mistake the
sideshow,
Bears ever
so.
made. All right, our Lavelle quote will take us out. And actually, we're going to listen to Caleb Chapman play Rise and Shout on the saxophone. We usually play that after BYU wins, but it's been so long.
We need to get some karma back.
We need to play it so that they will win. In the wake of the Big 12's new $2 billion media deal, which BYU will be a part of next July, we look at the time Lavelle took on the Bowl Alliance and got it to expand to at least consider now Power 5 teams in conferences like they were in the WAC.
Yep.
It's like, hey, consider us, treat us somewhat equal. And this is what he said.
Yeah. So, by the way, Lavelle did a lot behind the scenes for college football. He's revered for what he did. It's a step, no question. Obviously, it's not what any of us wanted, but it's at least a step. We can now say we're part of the alliance. However, I hope it's not perceived that they bought us off and we're going to go away. It's not fair. It's not right. We still need to fight. We can't let them go away and hide. Other schools are taking a major share of the pot, and that's still a major sore point as far as I'm concerned. But at least this is a step and better than what we had in the past.
Membership in the Big 12 finally brings BYU to the big time, both in compensation, bowl access, and money, things that BYU did not get when Lavelle had to go fight and make this statement. Something to rise and shout about with our friend Caleb Chapman to wrap it up tonight. There we go. You notice he threw some New Orleans in there at the very end.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Caleb Chapman, one of our greats, great BYU alum. Thanks to Lemma Harrington, TJ Bliss, and the great Max Hall. Next week, Kellen Fowler and Brandon Campbell from Neon Trees.
And both are going to be in studio with us.
In studio.
Yeah, so everybody in studio next Tuesday.
We will see you tomorrow night at the Marriott Center at 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain on BYU TV for the basketball exhibition game.
It's Ottawa.
And then we'll see you Saturday at the football at game day, just before 2 hours before BYU and Boise State on BYU TV, and then the game's on FS2. So we've got a busy week ahead. And, of course, next Tuesday for more Wise Guys.
And Monday night for basketball.
And
Do we have a game next
November
Monday?
7th. Is that Monday night?
Is that next Monday?
No, that is Monday night. And
so
Monday night
basketball
on
next Monday
BYU
night,
TV.
and then Tuesday.
That's a lot of us, so thanks for being patient. And remember, go to YouTube and subscribe. Same thing for Twitch and ysguys.com. You can get on there and click to get our highlights sent to you every week. So if you can't make all 2 hours, you can just get the best of sent right to you that Jack and the guys cut up and do as as a service project.
And as we go out, Bluesville reminds us, thanks for the show tonight. He says Happy Native American Heritage Month, which it is in the month of November.
I'm so glad October's over. I usually love October.
Thanks for the reminder, Bluesville.
Wins ahead. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. See you next time.